All right, we're live. Hey, everybody, it's Ripper here, and I got a lot of guests today. I'm on for 3 hours, and as I said in on Linda's show, this guy right here is I'm most excited to talk to this guy right here. I mean, I got some pretty high profile guests, but Adam here has been through hell and back. He served 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. I'm not going to tell you the whole story because he'll tell it better than I, but he got out and then something happened, and we're going to go through all that. So everybody say hi to Adam. He's right here on the screen. Adam, you served 12 years in prison. You're sitting here with a smile on your face. How do you get this smile on your face? I mean, you got a great smile. How could you be smiling after going through what you've went through?
Choices, my friend. Life's all about choices. Doesn't matter who we are. Doesn't matter where we're at, what situation we're in. We all got the freedom to choose.
All right, so you choose to be happy and positive, and that's. I did tell someone that the other day. I said, I just got a phone with this guy. I said, he was so positive. I'm like, what a great inspiration. So you wake up every day and you choose to be positive. You don't look back at the past and act like a victim, like, because you've been a victim, but that's not how you live your life.
I am a victim, but I choose not to have a victim mentality. You know, it doesn't make sense for me to go around and be bitter and miserable, revengeful, because of the bad choices of other people. You know, people make bad choices all the time. It's up to us to make good ones, despite their bad ones. And so it's difficult at times, but it makes sense. It'd be like drinking deadly poison. It's only going to hurt.
Right. That's actually a good analogy, because there are some people that like to just have a lot of negativity and they just bring it out. So how old were you when you got arrested?
I was 24.
All right, 24. And so you were like 36 when you got out. So over a third of your life, you were behind bars for something you didn't commit, for a crime you didn't commit. All right.
Nothing about it.
All right. I'm gonna bring someone else on here. And in my announcement that I didn't tell. There's some people that know who it is, but not everybody knows. And I was just on another channel talking about, and I know you didn't see this, Adam, but someone asked me a question, and I said it doesn't take someone with a college degree or some law degree, or you don't have to be anyone special or great to make a difference in someone's life. You can open up a computer or a phone and you can start researching stuff and doing something to make a difference. So in your case, there was a person that did just that. They started looking into your case, and they weren't anyone that you knew. You didn't know who this person was. And they hold on here. Hold on a second. There's a message for you. It says, hello from Mama Jean. I don't know if you see that. So that's your sister right there, right? So that's your sister. So I'll say hi to Christina, and Mama Jean is probably your mom.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to talk about her also in a little while. But this person, there was someone that got involved in your case that you did not know, and they made a pretty big difference in your case, right? Is that kind of accurate?
There was many persons that's made a big difference.
Okay.
And just kind of throwing this out there, Tanya Henry, she's the reason I'm on here today. But you guys are another reason. Big shout out to MaM-a-Thon, because this is a unique platform that you guys have, and so thankful for all the Innocence Projects out there and organizations fighting for the wrongfully convicted. it's a necessity, and very grateful for this opportunity. Dave, he's the guy you're talking about, and he's my hero. He got involved, and the way I break it down is he said something I'll never forget, and I like it. He said, "If you're not telling the truth, I'll find out." And I'm like, "No skeletons in my closet, my friend." And the more he dug, the more he uncovered, the more motivated he was. He's a difference maker for sure.
Sure. And if people don't know who it is, it's D.K. Sell, David K. Sell. I lived up in Kansas City for 20 years. David got into a case that was from a town like an hour and a half from Kansas City. But David didn't have a legal background. I don't even think he graduated college, which is when I say you don't have to be some superstar to make a difference in someone's life. This guy is the perfect example of this. This was a guy who was a musician, and he just saw something that was wrong, and he looked into one case, and then somehow he came across your case. So I'm going to bring him on now. He's waiting backstage with us. So everybody, I want you to welcome DK Sell. There he is right there.
Come in. There. Frank.
There he is right there. So
Adam, did you shave? You look younger again, Adam. Did you shave or what? You look like 14 years old. So in the face of a killer or a missing person.
DK, how did you come across his case?
I was turned on his case by the most extraordinary person the situation was a lawyer from Houston, Texas, was telling me about a case in the foothills of Tennessee, and not a place I knew a lot about, although I'd driven through that area as a kid, the Smoky Mountains, I think, once, but and she was the one who started telling me about Adam's case, and she had a few of the files from the case, which in themselves were fairly extraordinary. They were files. Now let's talk about. We got to bring up Adam's sister, Christine Braseel, who is a real true champion here. I noticed her. She was fighting for her brother. It was the most it was heart wrenching. She had moved back, as far as I understood. She lived in Chattanooga, and she moved back to be with her mother and take care of the family, but also work to fight for her mother's innocence. And that itself was such a barometer for reasons why somebody else might get involved. It's like they see somebody else be involved.
Right.
And, her dedication to her brother made me believe this was a case worth fighting for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get involved with that. Adam, let's go to, you're 24 years old. You're working for UPS, right?
Yep.
Working for UPS. You're, and I know you said you got skeletons in your closet. We all do.
No skeletons in my closet.
Sure you don't. No. Most people do.
Know.
I thought you said you had some, but most people do. I mean, a lot of people that get involved in this.
I mean, I got some skeletons in my closet in that sense, but as far as in the case.
Oh, yeah. No.
The case. I'm actually no skeletons in my closet.
Right. Yeah. When it comes to the case, and I'm going to show some stuff. When it comes to the case, you had absolutely nothing to do with any of it. Matter of fact, I read something where actually I'll talk about it in a little bit because I don't want to jump ahead, but you're 24, you have a job, you're paying taxes, you're living life, doing what everybody has a right to do. And then what happens?
Bam. Everything changed. You can think back when that time came to where life was different, and it's when I walked into my buddy's house, Josh's, and his mama Lila. She said she kind of revealed what had happened. She had heard that she found out that mountain killed. And then she had heard that I might have had something to do with it. And so she revealed that. And so right then and there, life would never be the same for me. My buddy Josh, basically, hey, you know, they got the wrong guy, and everything's going to work out. I'll never forget that.
All right.
Well, you had not. Now, tell everybody though that it was an old buddy of yours, and you hadn't really been on the mountain for a long time, right? I mean, you had moved to Franklin County away, and you were essentially coming back to visit some old friends. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't a place you were living or interacting with anybody at the moment, right? You were just back for that weekend.
True.
Right. I just want to point out that at this point, Adam is not like a resident, you know, of Grundy County or interacting with any of the people there.
So he's not even from there, and she tells you might have been involved or whatever. What happens? How are you contacted by law enforcement? What happens? What is it where all of a sudden you're just wrapped up into it?
Okay, so it happened to where that night I called my mom. I called my phone. My phone's dead, so I called my voicemail, and the first message was Mom saying, "Son, call me."
All right. Hey, can you move your computer a little closer? People are having a hard time hearing you. If you just maybe just a little closer, I guess. I can hear you, but they're having a hard time. Sorry. All right. So the phone call.
So I call my mom, and basically she gets frantic over a few phone calls, and she's really worried about me. And I had no idea at the time, but what she was worried about was that the police were going to kill me. And if the police kill me, the case is closed. They can pin it on me, and there's nothing going to be said about it, you know, bam. So anyway, she comes up to the mountain, and she tells me to stay where I'm at. So I stay where I'm at, and the police follow her to Josh's house. And so they get there, they get out. They ask to look at my car. I let them look at my car. They tell us to follow us to the police station. I get in the car with my mom. And we go to the police station, and they took a few statements from me, literally a paragraph, and that was it.
All right. So you cooperated with them.
Absolutely.
You gave them a statement, told them what did you tell them, that you weren't involved or you weren't there, or like, do you remember what it was that you told them?
I had no idea what was going on. I only did what they told me to do. I think it's something like I was at Charles's house, which was a buddy of mine. I spent the night with Friday night and stayed there all day, and then left there about 9 o'clock or something. And then it was something simple. They didn't even take clothes or anything until I think a couple days later. They asked me to bring them in. But they took a picture from me and just a short statement, got me in there and got me out.
Okay. So you thought everything was fine probably at that time. And then how much longer until...
Sorry. Looking back, I'm mad because if they had my best interest in mind, or even Malcolm's best interest in mind, they would have interrogated me. They did not. They didn't care. They had an ulterior motive, and we found this out. But they didn't care about the truth. They had an agenda, and you can see that clearly. Here's the beginning of the red flags.
Okay, who's?
Can I jump in 1 second?
Yeah, just a second though. Who's Malcolm? Just so the people know.
Malcolm was the murder victim.
Malcolm was who?
The murder victim. He was the man who was murdered at the time that when Adam went to visit. There was a murder that took place. Malcolm murder. I just wanted to jump in here real quick because. And from what I saw, they took Adam's car that night. And what I saw was they took Adam's car, and the next thing you see is there are two witnesses who know everything about Adam's car. And this is what I saw. They had no, it was a direct line from the sheriff showing, and what I came to believe was that the sheriff had showed these two victims Adam's car so that they Next thing you know, they were saying, "Oh, I saw Adam's car. It had these 2 small dents. They knew everything about it." And then we were later able to prove that they had access to the vehicle and saw the car outside of what was told in court. So in court, it made it look like, they had identified this car because they saw Adam. But in truth, they were shown the car at the sheriff's office. Well, I want to point out. And it was that night that they took Adam's car. I'm correct, right?
Yeah. Is that when they took your car? Was that night?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Malcolm was the person that was murdered. How much longer after that did they come and read you your rights?
It's a good question. I think it was a week or 2 weeks. I think it was a week.
Okay. So did they come and ask you any more questions or talk to like anybody that you said that you were with or anything like that? Or did they just come?
Literally, I went back up there to take them. I think it was my shoes and a pair of pants, I think. And that was it. There was no more questions, nothing. They took just a few statements or a few statements. That was it.
And at that time, did they arrest you or did you leave and then they arrested you later?
So that night that they came to Josh's, my alibi, was my buddy's house.
Yeah.
We went to the police station. They let us leave. And then there was the week or the 2 weeks went by. And I remember I was in Walmart and they called me and they said, "You need to come in." And so I went in.
Okay. Did they ever talk to Josh? Did they ever confirm with him that you were there, that your alibi was true?
You could probably ask Dave about that, but I don't remember. All I remember is that Josh testified on the stand, but I don't know. I've never read any statements from Josh.
Okay. All right, DK, what do you
Well,
remember?
they did one of these funny things that I see often in these cases where they said, "Yeah, we talked to Josh," but they didn't do it in writing. And then they said, "Well, Josh said Adam came at 11 o'clock, not 10, like Adam said." And meanwhile, they had not done this in writing. And, I see this every now and then where the more shady of the officers will come and just say, "Yeah, he told me 11," rather than have gone to Josh officially and done regular paperwork, written it down like real police work.
Right.
And I see this a lot in some of these cases. Very disturbing because he can just change his mind to make Josh look like a liar. And they very well tried to make Josh look like a liar on the stand. And they really made it wasn't just Josh, but other alibi witnesses of Adam. Adam had alibi witnesses all the way through, as far as I could see. And the only thing they did was to make them look bad, like they were lying. So
they wanted to discredit
exactly
the witness to make their case stronger. And that's pretty normal for prosecutors who don't have a very good case and they don't have any evidence, that they will try to discredit people to make their case stronger. Yeah. And, I'm under the belief that if you have a good case, you should have enough evidence. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. Everybody can speak the truth, but you don't have to discredit an alibi if you have the evidence for the case. So
I think that would be the good and honest DAs, they're out there, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. There are some that are out there.
Well, an extraordinary example in this case, and it was District Attorney Michael Taylor, and I was wondering why. It's a 5-county district, so I was even wondering why he was so adamant in indicting Adam. But at the preliminary hearing, even his lawyer at that time said, "Can we wait for the evidence to be tested at the lab in TBI?" So they had taken evidence, including Adam's car. They were 2 bloody crime scenes. If Adam would have done these things, he would have been bloody and gotten back in the car. There would have been blood all over his car. And the lawyer said, "Do you think we could wait for the evidence to come back to the lab?" And Michael Taylor got up there and said, "Your Honor, if we had to wait for evidence to get back from the lab, our caseload would be ungodly." And the judge agreed that they couldn't even bother to postpone Adam's indictment until the evidence, physical evidence, came back. And that's how much of a backseat physical evidence took place. But you're just saying here, Johnny, like real evidence took in this case.
Right.
What he said was, ladies and gentlemen, this is not like television. This is not like CSI. What we have is good Grundy County citizens who will tell you what happened. And they, I think, found 2 not so good Grundy County citizens.
Right. I'm gonna pull some pictures up here in a minute that I want to put on here because I think it's really important to see some of Adam's reactions to things, because when you look at these pictures, they're pretty impactful. There's some where you can clearly see here's an innocent kid who's in disbelief of what just happened. So you get arrested, you go to jail. What's it like as you're waiting? Of course, you didn't have anything to do with it. So you're locked up, you're in jail. Are you thinking that, okay, any day now they're going to figure this out and I'm going to go back home? Or, what's going on in your head through that while you're doing that? Like when you're sitting there in jail, locked up in a cage like an animal.
I never spent a night in jail in my life. I was blindsided. I was unlearned. I had no idea what was happening to me. All I know is everything changed whenever they took my physical freedom away. And there were some scary moments, especially there at the very beginning. I was down, I was depressed, and I didn't know what to do. I was so overwhelmed, and it was so hard. I thought I would never, ever have a problem. The problem that occurred, I'd never seen it coming. I was excited to go to trial, went to trial, found guilty of something I didn't even know nothing about. Here I am in county jail for the first time to ever spend a night in jail in my life. I had no idea I had 51 years over my head. I'm hoping that the judge would act as a 13th juror. Somebody had told me that. Well, I was looking for that, to happen. Something had happened terribly wrong, and that didn't happen. And then I never thought I would go to prison, and then they sent me to prison. And it keeps going. And in the midst of all this, I'm having a battle in my own head to try to find purpose, in this crazy situation. But it was unbelievably difficult.
All right, I'm gonna put the line up here because I know you know the line. Hey, I also want to know, do you remember what your inmate number was? Like, is that memorized in your head?
5.
So
I was like 4, 3, 2, joking around. But yeah, I'll never forget that ever.
When you got assigned that number, did you feel like you were just a number in the system, that you weren't anybody, but you were just a number? Is it like that? What was it like?
I hear that a lot, and I'm that guy that just don't go with the flow. But in the case of a prison number, I think most of the time it's so true. You're just a number. You're almost no longer human. There's good officers. I want to say that. But it's different. Things change. You're not
right.
The food, like it's grade F. It's not even for human consumption. It's different. Things change. When you get that number, it does not matter if you're completely innocent. It doesn't matter your situation.
All right. So I'm gonna skip the trial, and there are websites out there. There is one, DK, maybe you know what it is. There's a like Adam Braseel case.com or something where all these documents are out there. I didn't go through them, but I did see.
It's easy enough to find if you Google Adam's thing. And there's my blog, which is dksale.net, which is also attached to those. So yeah.
So if anybody wants to look through this, please do, because as of today, Adam is still a felon because of this case. Although he didn't have anything to do with it, and we'll get to that. But I just want people to know that he's not been exonerated yet. And it really makes me mad that it's, I just mad. There's evidence that shows that he's innocent, and they know that he's innocent, but they won't exonerate him. But we'll talk about that. But you go through this trial, and then I'm going to show this picture. I want to know what's going through your mind in this picture here. There you are on the left of that. You're 20, probably 24 or 25. But what's going on in your head at that moment when they announce you're guilty?
They just took my physical freedom away from me. They just found an innocent man, completely innocent. I not only I didn't even know nothing about the case, and they just convicted me, and that is scary. I wasn't able to process everything at the time, but I'll never forget that moment. I was found guilty of something I knew nothing about, and my mom was having a stroke in the pews, and
who were you looking at in that picture?
That was my mama. She was having literally a stroke in the behind me.
So they take you away from that courtroom. Did you get to hug your mom? Bye. Did you get to?
No.
You didn't even get to hug her goodbye.
Oh.
So they pull you out, and you're going to prison. And when you're in prison, you're really limited at what you can do. I mean, you just can't, go call somebody and say, hey, I came across this and it needs, like my attorney needs to know. I mean, you don't have that luxury to do that stuff. So when did you hear about DK? Like, at what point were you in the process where all of a sudden you hear about this guy that wants to help?
Well, there's a lot. Let me answer that real quick, because there's a bunch of years in between there. Adam.
Oh yeah,
Adam had appealed the decision, and then he lost the appeal. And I think one of the more striking thing is when I read the appeal decision was what I found most extraordinary on Adam's case, because it made it look like, oh, everything's okay here. Except for when I read it, I understood that the Sergeant Brown who testified was not the Sergeant Brown who was at the crime scene and found the body and collected the evidence. And this is where the case started to unfold. I said, there's something very wrong here. It was a Sergeant Brown who I would ultimately find in Florida. And that was the man who we got to come up and testify where Adam gets his initial freedom. But it was a number of years in there that the case file stayed with the original attorneys. And I don't think the case really changed much until Christine, Adam's sister, got that case file and started to look into that.
Hold on a second. Sergeant Brown that testified was not the same Sergeant Brown that was involved in the case?
No. And if you go and look at it's the appellate decision of 2011. So Adam was convicted in 2008, right? And is that right? Wait, no, I got the dates right. 2007, 2008. He appealed the decision. And when the Criminal Court of Appeals denied his appeal, what they said was the body of Malcolm Burrows was found by Franklin County Sergeant Troy Brown. And this is where I thought, well, this is, for one thing, why is a Franklin County officer in Grundy County? And then I realized they don't even know the truth here. The appeal court does not have their facts straight here. Not only that, going back to Adam's car, they had misrepresented the neighbor who said that she saw a car. She saw a gold color car. This is how this all happened. And in the appeals court, they said the neighbor had noticed a particular car that had the particular dents that Adam's car had in it. And when we get to the bottom of this case, all we see was a sheriff who had a lead that there was a gold color car at the crime scene, and Adam had a gold color car, and he has spent 12 years of his life because of that. So in going back, I realized I got Sergeant Brown. I start the website, and I'm able to contact the real Sergeant Brown that way. Because when I start writing it, Sergeant Brown starts writing me. Then I go to Florida, where he had retired. He never testified. His report had been destroyed. And so when we finally talked to him, we realized the crime scene is completely different how they put it on in court. Not only the wallet that they said was stolen.
The wallet was the motive, right?
That's the motive. But not only that, the body is not where they said it was found. And there's a lot wrong in this case we have not got to. But we needed legal means, and it was the motive. And that's why we stuck to that wallet deal. But yeah, when I found it was Sergeant Mike Brown who was at the crime scene, and Sergeant Troy Brown testified. But as you see, if you go read the appellate decision, it's extraordinary to see the appeals court endorse the wrong, Sergeant Brown, the wrong evidence. It's just, I've never seen anything like this. It made me wonder whether they were all in cahoots to each other. So when Adam had the very tough decision of whether to take this deal, this is what he was up against. He was up against a appellate court who just got the wrong sergeant in their decision. So I think that weighed probably heavily into your decision, So
here, let me do this real quick. I want to put this lineup in here that was done. All right. So you are on the bottom right, second from the right over there. That's you right there, correct? It looks like a blue grayish shirt.
Yeah, that was my driver's license picture when I was like 16, 17, which is weird. I've always thought that was weird.
Okay. So they didn't even they had a picture that was 8 years old of you that they used in the lineup. Did they?
They didn't know how to do a lineup, Johnny. I mean, yeah.
I want to go back to try to make it a little more comprehensive as far as Sergeant Mike Brown, and he's probably listening. I love you, man. Dave, thank you for pretty much finding him and seeking that truth and it coming out, because he's the reason why I was able to file a writ of error cor nobis. That's a newly discovered evidence.
Absolutely.
That's I'm home today. All right. The motive was the wallet. They're saying I went and killed this man over his wallet. All right, that's damning. People kill people over less than $600. I think they're saying that was stolen or taken, but all the time. But in this case, Sergeant Mike Brown comes forward revealing that, hey, he asked, why can't, here's this information that I've obtained and all that was destroyed. He didn't get to testify or nothing, but here's the point. He said that when he found that dead man, Malcolm, that he found the wallet on him. So that means that wallet should be in evidence. It wasn't in evidence. That means they stole that dead man's wallet to set me up.
Right.
Not only that's a big deal, but also everybody asked, why you, Adam? Well, we were doing an interview out of Nashville with Mike Brown and DK Sells. And it hit me that in that very moment, me and him were talking behind the scenes when DK was being interviewed. And he kept saying, I'm the reason you went to prison. I said, my friend, it's not because you did your job. It's not your fault. You're not the reason. But he was saying that he was the reason because he went and found someone that said they knew a redheaded guy.
Right. And
that someone said that they knew Adam Braseel. He was from Pelham. He was real religious, and he used to go to church with him. Mm-hmm. And so there was two big things there with Sergeant Brown that occurred when we found Sergeant Brown.
Yeah, I mean, it's a guy with gold colored car. I mean, he fits the bill. He's got some red hair. Let's charge him with the murder. And another thing that should be said about this, but I mean, just don't know that not once was it brought up during this whole trial that Malcolm Burrows was a major drug dealer. He was involved in a very, very high risk a bunch of drug deals with medical professionals in these pill mills, and the state hid that from Adam and his family. And so they brought the idea that Adam would go somehow have some kind of crystal ball to know that even Malcolm had a wallet and that he's going to go steal the wallet. Meanwhile, they're hiding all the motive that there really was. There were many people that wanted to kill Malcolm Burroughs, and they hid it. And it's called Maryland versus Brady violations. I'm sure people in Making a Murder know all about that. But there's just one Brady violation after another in this case where the prosecution is withheld evidence and left Adam in the dark that he looked like. I mean, he didn't look inappropriate. He looked like somebody who was in the dark. As we talked about that earlier, it's nothing against him. But when you're talking about the weight of an entire state coming down on you and then lying, that's pretty intense.
All right. So people are asking this question: is there a good suspect? So I'm going to put a picture up on the screen, and
it's Allie Apperson. No, it's not.
I'm going to put a picture up on the screen, and I want DK to tell me who this guy is that is on the screen. We have Adam on the left, and then we have another guy right here. And these guys look like they could be brothers. They
do look like they could be brothers. It's Kermit Bryson. And he was he was a guy who lived up there. He was involved in drugs, and he was, I guess, he was very tied in with the then sheriff of the time, and he eventually was a situation where he was the one who was, although he wasn't tried and convicted for it, everybody believed that he had shot an officer 2 years after Adam's case. After Adam's conviction. And so Kermit Bryson, his fingerprint was found at the crime scene. However, it was never matched. Well, it was matched. The chronology is this. Once we tried to bring Sergeant Brown in, the state pushed back and said, it's too late. You can't do that. Once the judge said, we're going to bring him in anyway, and all that. And once we knew we were going to be able to bring Brown in, the prosecutor admitted that they had found this fingerprint and it matched Kermit Bryson. But it was only after that. They had the fingerprint. They've been holding on to it for like 8 months until that point. And I swear to you, if we had a different judge who had ruled differently, I doubt we would ever have known about that fingerprint.
All right. So the guy that looks like Adam, I'm just say they look pretty similar. His fingerprint was found at the crime scene.
His fingerprint was found
at the crime scene. His fingerprint was found inside the door of the car with a man murdered laying beside it.
Yeah, near. Yep.
And
the TBI literally undermined the state's case.
They did.
So
political. Well, the TBI sent the prosecutor
retested. We might have never ever this fingerprint the identification of this fingerprint might have been disclosed to us. I mean, even after it was retested by the TBI agency, it still wasn't disclosed to us until 15 months later.
That's what I mean. It wasn't until after the judge allowed that we were going to be able to bring in Mike Brown, that we had a case. Because they didn't volunteer it. They wouldn't say like, well, they were going to see whether we could bring in Mike Brown and all that. And if we couldn't, I don't think they would have ever showed that fingerprint, Adam. That's my own opinion. But they were, let me put it to you this, they were holding on to all the cards. And I think you're right. The TBI did undermine this. I just think that these guys are at war with each other, and your life is in the middle. Is pretty, this is politics.
Right. I want to put this up here real quick because I want to make sure that we don't miss this important thing, that you need to be exonerated. And what can people do? How can people help? If someone says, Adam, what can I do to help? What is it? What do they need to do?
Just speaking about an exoneration. So I'm that guy. I believe in people, even though I could easily not trust anybody because of what's been done to me. I give everybody a chance. Well, this governor, he's known for being a good dude, and as far as I can tell, we got a real good shot. We have the judge that's overturned my case on Christmas Day 4 years ago. I may be the only one in the United States that's ever had that happen. I was able to come and be justly free without a felony for 10 months. And then the Court of Criminal Appeals overturned it. So I went back for 3 years. I got the sheriff fighting for me. We got officers coming forward. We got jurors coming forward. We got the majority of the community, the communities. We got media that's on our side. The truth came out. TBI, undermine the state's case, smoking gun, everything you need for the DA to simply do the right thing and say, hey, we messed up, all charges dismissed. But that didn't happen. And we can get into that in a minute. Right now, we're hopeful that this governor, it's going before the pro and the Board of Probation and Parole. They've never recommended an exoneration. However, we're hoping I'm that guy because there's a good chance.
Haven't there been some changes made?
In their best interest, because it's sadly it is politics. It's political.
Have there been some changes made on the board though? Some changes have been made.
The governor did make some good changes.
So there's a new board, and I think whoever posted that before the petition, I think that's an excellent way if you're on the outside that you can join and you can sign that petition. Besides getting to know the case more, but the more signatures, the people that understand the case.
Right. So if somebody wants to put the petition or the link for it in the comments, please do.
Yeah.
That. So this is Governor Bill Lee from Tennessee, right? That's the governor that people can email, or you can call their office. But the governor needs to know that there are people that care about Adam and they care about injustice, and the governor has the ability to make this right. And we need to let them know that we're watching. And as a taxpayer in this country, these people work for us. So you have every right to call them, contact them, let them know that, hey, this guy needs to be exonerated. Now, I'm going to put something on the screen here that even though you're out right now, and let's just say you do get exonerated, there's still, let me make sure I have the right thing here. There's still a legal bill that you have. Can you tell us how much you owe in attorney fees right now?
Yeah, over $100,000.
$108,000 is what Adam owes in attorney fees right now. That is so much money that you owe, and you had nothing to do with anything. And you got out, but you had to sign an Alford plea, right?
Yeah.
And why did you do that? Because a lot of people, they'll say, well, why did he, if he was innocent, why did he sign something to get out or whatever? Can you tell us why you did the Alford plea?
Yeah. This is something I'll probably speak about for the rest of my life. It's sad. Man, I said I'd never take a deal. And they come at me with a deal the night before, and it was 5 years. You take this deal 5 years, you're guaranteed to go home. Alford's plea. An Alford's plea is the best interest plea. In other words, basically, there's evidence that could find you guilty, that could be used against you to find you guilty. And at first, I was always like, no, there's no evidence. No, that's not what they're saying. The evidence can be fabricated. It is evidence, like a lot the eyewitness identification. Even though it was impermissibly suggestive lineup, a legal lineup, even though there was all this illegal things done, they still use evidence. And so even though it's faulty, and we got exculpatory evidence and all this, there was so much going through my head at the time. I would never take the deal, but then whenever it was put in my lap, it was in my best interest to take the deal. And I'll tell you why. I'd already been convicted an innocent man. We're fighting against a system that has unlimited resources, and they do what they want to do. And that's sad. It should be unacceptable. They do what they want to do. So I knew that. I'd already been home, justly free without a felony for 10 months. And they overturned my just judge's decision to let an innocent man go free in the right way because of what was the
you were out
counsel. I was trying to throw that in there.
Right.
Anyways, I'm justly free, and the Court of Criminal Appeals overturned this just judge's decision. That is, not only I've been an innocent man in prison all those years, 9 years with 51 years over my head, and then justly free, but then it happened again. So I'm talking to my attorneys. We brought Jason Strong in there, which I seen was on yesterday, my buddy. We had everybody coming in there. Me and my sister, family, we're saying no deal. My attorneys are encouraging me, Adam, take this deal. It's in your best interest. Don't you want a family? Can you do more good locked up or free? You know, after it's all said and done, you've done 12 years on this charge they're trying to give you. We can file for clemency, or we can get it wiped off your record. Well, me being the guy that I am, I'm not. We live in an unjust world. Bad things happen to us all the time. We got to make the best of it. And I'll say this, I may be justly free today, but I am justly free with a felony, and I may always have a felony. I hope not. And I may have to pay this $100,000 worth of attorneys that we've had to sell our land and pay everything we've got and go into debt, and I may have to pay it off at the end of the day. I'm going to keep a smile on my face, but it's sad. It's not right. And whenever I was in that room, I was encouraged to take this deal. And if I take this deal, I can go home and be with my mom before she passes away. I can live my life, grow a family, be justly free, and enjoy the things that we so often take for granted. The next day after I took that deal, I was looking at the beautiful scenery where I live, and I had my Bible out. I was reading it, and I was miserable. I had made this choice to take this stupid deal. It's their way of getting away with it. They got away with convicting an innocent man and putting me away for all those years. They were able to save face with that deal. That's a coward's move. And I took that deal, and I was miserable. But I'll say this. After I put my feet off into my shoes that I was in the day before, I was so happy to be home. Can we do something about it? I hope so. But I made that deal. And in a sense, I'm glad I did, because I can fight for an exoneration. I don't have to deal with what people are dealing with right now. The coronavirus, they're locked in a cage. They're not just in that prison. They're in their cell, locked in their cell, and they're not getting fed like they should. And if you don't got commissary, you're talking about torture. Well, I've not only been tortured all those years, but right now some of those guys are going through things I've never even been through.
In the very prison that you were in, yeah. That very prison you were in is overrun with coronavirus right now. I have a new client, Wayne Grimes, who's down there, and it's just so yeah. Anyway,
I'm gonna I'm gonna add Christina as a moderator just in case she has some links that we could. She's not going to come in, but I'm going to add her so that if she has some links for, I know there's a website where people can donate to help with your legal fund, because $108,000 is a lifelong debt. I mean, that's going to be really hard to pay, especially when you have a felony on your record, because employers use that against you. When you apply for a job, there's a box that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And a lot of places, when you check that, you don't get a chance to have that job and to make the living that you should be able to make. And not because of anything you did, but because we have this corruption that is there, and you signed an Alford plea. So now you can't turn around and hold the people accountable to, for any monetary damages or anything. You can't do any of that stuff. So we really need to get people to help financially with paying some of this legal bill of yours. And, if anybody knows anybody that needs a big tax write-off, this is a good place right here for a really good tax write-off for somebody. So Christina, give me a second. I'm going to make it so that you can post some links on this. And we got like 8 minutes left. It just flew right by. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind having you on again. And we talk 3-4 hours or however long it takes to get all the information out, because it's really a sad story and it's tragic. And although you are out, you're still a felon. I mean, people are still going to judge you for something that you didn't even do. I'm going to post.
Can I say something here?
Yeah, you bet.
I want to address that. And, because John, you brought it up that you were in Kansas City when I was doing the Woodworth case. And, in the Woodworth case, I can be happy to report that we were able to put claims, civil suits up to $30 million in that case. I would have loved to have seen this happen in Adam's case. I thought that we should have deserved at least that much to be able to sue the state for all of that. However, given the circumstances, Adam made the right decision. And it's like what I said is that we got Adam out once. He should have stayed out. And that judge made the right decision. The wild card of what would happen to him and leave him in prison until he was 71 was real. And it's really, and I'm saying that judging by just coming off this other case where we went all the way. And I just for anybody who has doubts out there with Adam's decision, I want to say that he made the right decision. Just the power and the way it was so wrong, they got it so wrong. They just never would have given up, I don't think. And I don't think we could have taken it to federal. While we could have, I don't know if we would have won, and we could have seen a disaster. So, although I was very frustrated, I wanted to take it to the end. It was certainly not something I was going to ask Adam to roll that dice on. Or his mother. I love his mother, And so, to have him, and he did made the right decision, everybody.
I agree. You can do a lot more out here than you can behind bars, and there are enough people out here that care about injustice to where, we can get help. I want to put a picture up here, and I want to know, when I saw this picture, I thought it was, I wanted to know what was going on at that moment in your life. Adam.
I was tearing up, crying. I was real excited. There's been a lot of good go on and in my case, and I was so hopeful that I was going to go home. Again, every time I'd go to court, anytime anything would happen, I was going home. I gave my stuff away a lot of times, but at this time, I literally had all my stuff packed up in prison, and I'd give it away or let my buddies hold. Because if I wasn't coming back, I want you to have it. And so I'm hopeful that I'm going home. And they made the decision to put it off, to cancel it. And it was just overwhelming. it was overwhelming. We had a courtroom full of people. It was like standing room only. And listen, my supporters are the best supporters in the world, and it was just always overwhelming to come to court, and it was exciting to have so many people fighting for me, but man, it's torturous. It's torturous to be that innocent man in there and to not know if you'll ever come home again, but to be so hopeful every single time, but then time after time just get smacked. And
right. So you give all your stuff away, you're going to court, you're going home, you get in there, they're like, nope, not going to happen. And your heart's just ripped out. Because you have family that you want to see, and it just gets ripped.
I don't deserve to be in prison, you know? And so I'm ready to move on with my life. I've kind of applied myself the whole time in prison, ready to hit the ground running. And I wanted to move on with my life so bad. And now that I'm home, I'm excited. And I get that opportunity. No matter what happens, I'm justly free, period.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm justly free with a felony and whether I owe $100,000 in attorneys, not to prove it, man.
Right. All right. I want
people to know that during the coronavirus and everybody locked in their homes, it's not so bad. And there's a choice that we can make to counter many blessings and to really put our feet off in other people's shoes that's got it way worse than we got it. We got time to be with our families and grow our perspectives. Realize, that, there's an opportunity to be less distracted by the things of the world, if you will, right now, going through the things that we're going through with this coronavirus. But no matter who we are, back to what I said at the very beginning, we all face adversities in life. And it's a matter of a choice to see adversities, challenges as blessings in disguise, because through all challenges in life, we've got the choice to grow from them. And the more we grow, the more we got an opportunity to help others grow.
It's remarkable that you say that with this coronavirus, and there's a lot of people going through mental issues right now because they're quarantined in their home, in their yards. Like, they can go outside in their yard. They just need to, stay 6 to 10 feet away from people, but they are suffering. They are like going nuts. There's hotlines that you can call for, if you're having mental issues regarding that. But you went through that for 12 years and you didn't do anything wrong.
That's true. But again, it's a matter of choice. We all have the freedom to choose. And we can choose to think on the worst things, or we can choose to think on the best things. And I chose to think on the best things. And, we can too. It don't matter who we are. We're richly blessed. We that are free. We're richly blessed. And sometimes we don't realize it. But sometimes it takes people like us to point some things out. And I hope that's what I can do, that I can offer today. It's not just to be a voice to say that, wrongful convictions can happen to you like it happened to me. Not just to say that, there's hope. I hope I give people hope, families hope, because we beat the astronomical odds, not just once, twice. There's good people out there, judges and officers and, TBI agents and good media and good people like Dave and my sister and family and supporters. But there's hope at the end of the day that this life's not what we're living. We should be living for. We should be living for the life that is to come. Christ Jesus, most innocent man in all the world, he suffered for us for our example, that we should follow his steps. We're to have the mind of Christ. We can do all things through Christ and be strengthened.
Good closing, because we're running out of time, but I'm just going to keep going a little bit longer. I got Mystic Jinx and Nozey Wren. They're coming on around 2:00. So Mystic Jinx has been waiting for like 20 minutes. So I think she probably wants to come on and talk to you. So I'm going to let her come in. I'm going to just keep going with this because I think it's real important that we talk about your case. And also Nozey Wren is going to come in. These are two people that are helping me with this missing persons case out of Florida. So I'm going to have them come in. I'm going to keep you guys on here. Because I just don't think an hour is long enough for this. And hold on, let me add them in here. And I will say with the quarantine and stuff, it is, someone had mentioned that it's not the same, and it's not. It's all relative. If you're used to being out with people all day, every day, your whole life, and then you get quarantined, it's a shock to your system. I mean, it is tough for that person, but at the same time, for someone like you and all these other people that
just what happened
were locked up, right? It's all relative. So I just want to put that out there because people are suffering from being quarantined, and I don't want to discount that.
It's just, my physical freedom was taken away from me. It happened that quick. We are quarantined and we still got freedom. There's always another viewpoint, and we can choose to eat the healthy foods that we got, and some of us ain't got healthy food, or we can choose to walk outside, and you can't do that in prison. And I'm just saying, I went through what I went through. I made the best of it. We can too out here.
All right,
so I have a question for you.
Here we go.
I asked in the chat, what did you do anything with time to, like, when you didn't want to think about your case, when you just wanted to not think about it? Did you do anything, sing or write or draw or anything that would, maybe you could suggest to these people who are feeling the effects of the quarantine that they could maybe try to do?
Man, and so that's what I did. I went to my Bible to learn truth. I learned it. I started applying it to my life. Still got a lot to learn, but the more I did, the more I was free. And the more purpose I found in that hopeless situation. Not to live this life for this life, but to live this life for the life that is to come. We don't know. If I could be an innocent man in prison with 51 years over my head, not knowing if I ever come home again, then I know I could split hell wide open. This is real. We don't know what tomorrow might hold. We don't know what's around the corner. We got to make the best of every day, all day long. People make bad choices all the time. It's up to us not to let their bad choices hurt us. And so that's where I was. I chose to literally get up early, get my Bible, talk to everybody that I could. I worked out. I had a good job, different jobs. I don't know about a good job, but so I stayed busy. Letters. I had a lot of supporters write me, so I wrote letters all the time, and I made the best of it. And that's what we got to do out here. We can make the best of it. There's so many opportunities around every corner. You can get involved in this wrongful conviction a dilemma. It's happening, and it can happen to you. And so we got to do our part to try to educate ourselves and speak out, to try to inform, to try to motivate, to make that difference. But I always go back, spiritually speaking, eternity's forever. We got to make choices to do the most important thing, and that's first. And then when we do that, everything else will kind of fall into place.
Mystical Jinx, did that answer your question?
That did. I suggest the same thing. Read, pray, draw, paint, anything. Keep your mind off not being able to do the things that you usually do. Take time for hobbies. I research, so I keep my mind busy with lots and lots of research. I looked into your case when DK knows me as Carrie on Facebook.
Okay.
So
Hi.
I kind of did a little research for him on your case back.
Absolutely, yeah. Carrie's been very helpful and an exceptionally good researcher. But I didn't know that was the name you went by. Well, that's great. Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're out. I know an Alford plea sucks, and I don't agree with what they did to you. They should own their poo and take responsibility for what they did. And
it looks bad on them. Everybody, I mean, everybody knows that they've done me wrong and that I was an innocent man. The truth came out. And that was another reason I took that Alford's plea. I was telling my buddies, I'm not going to take the deal. I'm not going to take the deal. And that's the night before when they offered the 5 years. You do 5 more years guaranteed to go home, Alford's plea. Well, that was actually my guys, all my buddies, they got life and life without. And some of them are guilty. Some of them are innocent. But they were saying take the deal, which is crazy. But, it's one of those things whenever – everything was going in our favor where I could have made that fight. And I could have made that choice to keep fighting. But I've already done 12 years. And there was too many uncertainties. And so I knew that this was a guarantee I could get my physical freedom. And it's terrible because they should have, this is the justice system. They're supposed to be just. They should have made the choice to make that just decision once the truth came out that I'm innocent. They should have took responsibility. I mean, that's the right thing to do, but they didn't, and we know why. They're trying to save face. They don't want to admit they done me wrong and that I was an innocent man all those years. I don't know, some reason make them look bad. What makes them look bad doing what they did? I think it would have made them look better, and I think we all agree if they would have done the right thing. I would have had more respect for them if they would have simply done the right thing for them than for them to do what they did, and so it's crazy. But it's life, and let's do something about it. These Alford's pleas are it's their way to save face, and they're getting away. If the more of us that take, let's just speak the truth. The more of us that are innocent that take these deals, these Alford's pleas, we're literally condoning them. We're saying, okay, we condone you, enabling them to continue to get away with this wrong. And it hurts the next man down the road. And it's sad that I did this, but man, oh wow, I didn't know if I would ever come home again. And I was willing. You can ask all the guys that I was in prison with. I said I would never take the deal, and I was willing to fight that fight and say I may never come home completely innocent man. And this is a worthy fight worth fighting. But like I said, I took that deal. And whether, we all know, it's sad that I took that deal, but, I did it. And I've got to speak out about it and try to, right the wrong as far as, this Alford's plea. But, hey, I'm going to keep making the best of every day. And hopefully I can use this, this platform and many more to maybe make a difference. And get this Alford's plea off the table, because they shouldn't be able, once the exculpatory evidence is come about and the truth comes out to where one is completely innocent without a shadow of a doubt, then they shouldn't be able to just get away with it by throwing a deal on the table like that. And my attorneys even encouraged me to make this choice, and it was a difficult one, but like I said, I put my feet off into my shoes I was in the day before that I took the deal, had 51 years over my head not knowing if I'd ever come home again.
No one's going to blame you for taking the deal. I mean, we understand. And hold on. Allie has a question. She wants to know, how long have you been out of prison?
8 months, 3 weeks, 1 day.
Wow. Even I thought it was less than that. Yeah, time flies by.
Do you think you'll always remember the exact time that you've been free?
Say that again.
Like you remember it's like 8 months, 1 day and 1 hour and 35, whatever you just. Do you think you'll always remember that? Like for every day that goes by, you'll always remember that exact date?
No. This time I had to look at it. I did. Okay. I said August 2nd. I'll never forget that day. And I used to. You can ask my sister. I can't remember, but it was more along the lines of about 6-7 months. But lately, I've kind of tried to. It's not even that I've tried it. I just have. I've not just kept up with it every day. I'm not that guy.
That's a good thing, in my opinion, that you're moving on and living life and
I don't want to forget it. Like, I'm the guy that I want to go and wherever my home is, I want to build a storm shelter, and I want it to be the specifications of a cell so that I can go out in it and remember what I've been through and remember the guys that are still there, you know, just reflect on what all I've been through and all my supporters that's fought for me, you know, and my superific sister, I can't quit thinking about her. You, sissy, love you.
Where can people contact you? Where can they, you know, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I don't do a lot, but I do the Facebook. And so if you private message me on Facebook or ask me to be your, I don't know about the friend request. I still got almost 700 of them from when I've gotten out. So I think the best way is to write me in Messenger.
Okay, Facebook Messenger. So if there's someone from any media, whether it be TV, print, whatever, if you want to get in contact with Adam and talk to him about his story, his Facebook is just how it's spelled in this video right there. Just put that in there and you'll see a picture of him smiling. You'll see many pictures of this guy smiling. Which,
I give you my phone number.
No, don't do that. You'll, cause aren't you in a relationship? If you put your phone number out there, you will have tons of people calling, asking you out. So I don't know if you want it. I don't know if you want that. So don't do that. But I do have his phone number. If someone wants to contact me to get in touch with him, let me know. I'll be more than happy to put everybody in contact. And someone is telling me that Erin might want to take this story. She very well might want to, and I'm going to bring it up today. So I'm going to at least put it in front of her because this is a hell of a story, corruption at its finest. And also it's a story where you have someone that took their time to look into a case and found a piece of evidence to help get this guy out of prison. I mean, this is what I love about this story is that you got a guy like DK that was a major player in the reason that we're seeing Adam sitting here today and that we can talk to him. So yeah, this story needs to be out there. National media needs to get it. It needs to be told. We need to get this felony off this guy's record. We need to get his legal bill paid for so that he can be in the same place he was before he went to prison so that he can live a good life and not have to worry about all this stuff that's happened to him. Before I let you go, what's your favorite quote or verse from the Bible?
I guess Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. And then I guess to kind of bring that together, there's a couple more. We're the mind of Christ. And if you're looking at Christ and his perfect example, it don't matter who we are, what we're going through. We can have purpose. It's not about us living our life for ourselves. It's about bringing glory to God. And then there's one in 1 Corinthians 15, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. This is a worthy fight, the most worthy fight. When you do things for God, you do it God's way.
Thank you. People, this is a good guy, and we need to help him. So whoever you know, tell him the story. There's plenty of information out there. We can get in contact with him. Let's help this guy. I'm going to have to say bye to him because I've got an attorney coming on in 15 minutes. I need to talk to Nozey and Mystic Jinx. Adam, DK, thank you guys for being here. And anytime you guys want to come back, just let me know. I would love to. I mean, if you want to do a 24-hour marathon, I'm down for it.
That's for sure.
Whatever you need, I'll do what I can to help you. So,
thanks, guys.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, guys, for what you're doing. Love everybody.
Yeah.
all right.
take care, guys.
Love
See
you
ya.
guys.
I'm going to kick you guys out, so don't take it personally.
I will. Hey.
All right, guys. That's a heart-wrenching
Hi.
story.
Why? You were so close.
Well, maybe you have to scoot back a little bit. I don't know. You might have to. You
I
might have to
did,
turn.
but a second ago, it wasn't so close.
I just want, for people that don't know, that this Tiger King stuff that I got into, I want to tell you that Nozey here, I reached out to earlier this month to ask her if she had seen the show. And of course, I know these two from the Stephen Avery stuff, which is, you know, one of the reasons we're here this weekend for the Stephen Avery case, Brendan Dassey. But after I'd seen the show, I just thought, boy, this is you know, something's off here. So I sent a message to Nozey asking if she had seen it. Long story short, her and Mystic and Tina, we started this group on Facebook and we jumped into it. And like 3 days later, I was interviewing the ex-wife of the handyman. And we uncovered some incredible evidence. And then I interviewed Ann McQueen, who was the secretary for the guy that went missing. So I wanted to bring them on here so that, you know, I wanted to just show how much I appreciate these two people and Tina, because when it comes to research and finding information, they hand me the stuff. Like, they give me the stuff and all I do is read it. I put it together and I talk about it. But, you know, if somebody needs to get something done, it's people like these two and Tina, and then the other people in our group that can really make some incredible things happen and fast. Like, I had quite a few people ask me, how long have you been looking into this Don Lewis case thing? I was like, and when they'd asked me, it had just been a couple of weeks. I was like 2 weeks. And they're like, oh, wow, like you found it. Like, how did you get that stuff so fast? Like, we've been looking into this for years. But it's because of people like these two and Tina and these other people. Tina, her back is hurting. I guess she went out and tried to run a marathon or something, or got in a weightlifting competition with a couch, maybe. So her back is out. So she didn't want to come on. I wanted her to be on here, but she's just in too much pain, and I understand that all too much. But I do want everybody to try to help with Adam. If we can, you know, maybe down the road we can do something like this for Adam, because $108,000, that's a lot of money. I mean, it's sad that you had a guy that was totally innocent, and I'm glad he's out. I mean, we're all glad he's out. But at the end of the day, you know, every night when he goes to bed, he still owes $108,000. That's, you know, I mean, that's
a lot.
horrible. It is a lot. All right, so I'm gonna let these two talk, because I'm gonna take a little bathroom break, because we have a criminal defense attorney coming on in about 10 minutes, and he's going to talk about Brendan Dassey's confession. And it'll be good to get a perspective from this guy. This guy helped me with the Highland Community College. He was like the first person to stick his neck out, because when you do this kind of stuff, when you have a channel, you can go out and you can say things, but you just don't have much credibility. You know, there's so many rogue journalists out there that you can speak the truth, but people don't really believe it, because you don't have, you know, the backing of like CBS or a Kansas City Star, or, you know, like a big media presence. But this guy that I'm going to have on, he stuck his neck out and he went to these papers and he said, it's all true. This is the stuff that happened. And as an attorney who works for the NAACP, it was pretty incredible that this guy stuck his neck out like he did. And I mean, he did do some research on it, but I gave him just a bunch of information, and he took it and he did some fact checking and he ran with it. So, you know, it's going to be exciting to have him on, especially to talk about Brendan Dassey, because this guy, I'll just let him tell you how he feels about law enforcement and some of the things that they do. But I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. So Nozey and Mystic, you guys are going to take over the show for like 5 minutes. I'm going to refill my coffee. I know you guys don't want to do that, but you're going to do it. So I'll be back in like 5 minutes. So have fun.
Thank you. Thank you. See, I told you we were intermission.
I'm okay with that. I can entertain versus.
Yeah, have at it.
I mean, we really can't top Adam Braseel. So, yeah, I'm pretty much at this point. I'm like, oh, okay, hey.
So, I guess we'll talk about some questions here. One strand wants to know what your tips are for researching, what you recommend.
So for me personally, it's kind of how I found all of you guys that have been around for a long time. Thanks, Finn. I just got curious and I started in marketing, and when I did marketing research, I just took everything that I had learned and applied there and started creeping most of you guys. And once I felt comfortable to speak up and say something, I think Jinxie and TikTok and Pub Tender were all of my first people. And I just started asking questions, and then the internet's pretty easy. So I'm just a creeper in a nutshell, really.
I'm going to tell you what I told one strand earlier today and a couple of times the other day. I Google it. I Google everything. And then I put it all in spreadsheets so I can find it later.
Yeah, you guys, like, I've never had to deal with like adulting stuff like house deeds, or I've never bought a house or anything else or whatever. But I'm learning how to use the public records and whereas like you have the property deeds and stuff and real estate, or you have like the government. I'm just learning how to do all that. Most of the time, y'all kept talking about my eyebrows. Most of the time, I would just ask, where do I look? Or I don't want people to do the work for me. So I like to ask, what website do I look at, or how do I find it, versus just asking someone to give me the information. So, but I want to do this. I mean, I want to do this for a long time, and a lot of other cases, and I follow a lot of other cases. So I just try to take everything you guys have taught me and apply it in my own craft and whatnot. So I don't do anything special. I probably talk more shit to trolls. I'm probably best at that than anything else that I do. So I definitely have you guys covered there.
Poor Nozey and all her Twitter accounts.
Oh.
I think we need him back. How long is he going to be?
I don't know. Right now.
I was nervous before, and now I'm even more nervous.
No, I was listening to, I actually fell asleep last night listening to Finn's podcast, season 2, episode 1. If y'all haven't listened to that yet, it's crazy good. I was listening to Henberry's, I don't remember the name of the podcast, but it was something regarding the RAV. And it's just so impressive. And it's like, I know I've heard this stuff before, but it's like, I learn so much from everyone every single day. And I have my camera like this for a reason. So that's why y'all get my nose and my forehead.
Things.com.
And my awesome eyebrows. Yes. 80 more things. 80 more things. I'm not my camera. This is what y'all get. Y'all get my nose because I'm nosy.
They tried to get me on live, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't get on cam. Sorry, guys.
Oh, okay. We just heard. Okay, I was like, how did we hear you from the bathroom? That's weird.
I'm glad we didn't hear him in the bathroom. We're the intermission. Should we start doing the intermission song?
Just for entertainment purposes. Hey, glad you're here joining us. Yes, I am doing the Wilson view, from Home Improvement. So that's.
Oh, I love that. You need a fence. You need a fence.
I know, right? I don't have a fence. I just have a lot of toys in this playroom right now.
Hey, does your phone have one of those apps that you can add the Wilson fence when you get on?
Probably. This is actually the first time I've ever done anything regarding making a murder on my computer. All you guys are always on your computers, and I do everything on my phone. So I've never even used my camera, my microphone, nothing on this computer other than WordPad. So
I just learned YouTube, when you look at a live video on like an old live video, like something you guys have already done, I can't read the live chat. There's no button there. But if you're on the app on the phone, they have like a nice little button you can see all the live chat that happened, but not on the browser.
I didn't know that.
I'm going to have to contact them and complain.
Travis said that's one of Ripper's hybrid tigers.
He thinks he's a tiger out here, I'm telling you.
Oh, man, that's hilarious.
All right.
Better be careful. You might have Carol Baskin trying to take it from you.
No. All right, I'm getting I got to send the attorney the link.
He wants to make all the zoos virtual zoos. She doesn't want people to be able to go to a zoo. I believe that's somewhat accurate, but yeah,
she only wants her zoo.
Right. She doesn't think anybody should have a zoo. Like, where I'm at, we have one of the best zoos in the country, but I mean, obviously we don't touch the animals. So it's like, okay, well, that whole thing is just, I'm not an animal activist, so I don't understand. I understand both sides, but I'm going to stick to wrongful convictions and missing people.
Well, I'll give you my take on that stuff, on zoos. I enjoy going to zoos. And if it wasn't for zoos, there would probably be some animals that could be extinct. I haven't done the research on it, but I enjoy going to zoos. If animals are treated humanely, if they're not locked up in little bitty cages and things like that, I don't mind them. But what's odd to me with her is that she doesn't want anyone else to have them except for her.
Right.
So that seems just a little suspicious to me, especially from a person who is so money hungry and evil. And at the year, like when she was 16 years old, she even admitted in the newspaper article that she went to work for the governor's office to get back at him for buying helicopters instead of planes for whatever thing it was. I'm like, who's 16 and plans that out? Like, it's so calculated. Let me, I gotta email this link over here. I sent it to him earlier, but he must not see it. I gotta put on my glasses.
Who is Crack Tiddler? Because that's gross and funny.
Is someone requesting me to put up pictures of Kratz or something? Is someone asking for that?
No.
Okay, no. I can do it.
No, I was just reading one of the names on the commenters, Kratz Tiddler.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Oh. All right. Hopefully he gets it. He'll be joining up here, and we're going to talk to. His name is Marty Keenan. He's a criminal defense attorney. He's done work for the NAACP, and he also writes books. And here he comes. I see he's just about here. There he is, right there. All right. So Marty can hear me. We can't hear him. Marty, I'm getting ready to bring you in. Oh, you got to put some pants on. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So here comes Marty Keenan. He writes books. He's a criminal defense attorney. He's got good morals, and he likes to help people that need help. So, Marty, welcome to the show. There he is right there, the attorney, Marty Keenan.
Hello, Marty.
Hi.
Marty.
Can you hear me?
No, we can't. Yeah, we can hear you just fine. So, Marty, I
Can
know
you hear me?
recently. Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
I can't hear you.
You can't? Can you hear us, Marty?
Testing, testing. One, two,
Okay,
three.
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Great. So, Marty,
I
you
can't hear Jack though.
Oh, really?
Can you hear
All
me,
right.
Marty? Negative.
Mystic. All right. So he can probably hear you, I bet.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but not Jack.
Okay. So, Mystic,
Okay.
ask him if he just recently watched the interrogation of Brendan Dassey.
Did you just recently watch the interrogation of Brendan Dassey?
I did.
Ask him what stuck out to him in that.
What stuck out to you the most in that?
Well, I watched about an hour of it. I watched the part that Jack sent me, and I've seen it before, but what struck me is that he was a child. He has a low IQ. He was suggestible, and they were judging him they were acting like, we're going to judge you not on whether you committed a crime, but whether you're completely honest with us, today. So he started just making stuff up because he thought he was being judged on volume, not on truth.
So the more he said, the better he
Right,
thought he
exactly.
was doing.
Exactly. Because they kept saying, tell the truth. We need the truth. We already know the truth. So they made him think, they had the complete puzzle, and they wanted him to fill the pieces in, so he just started making stuff up. He didn't know what happened, but he thought they kept saying honesty. What we want is honesty. And they even quoted, Jesus saying, they didn't say Jesus, but they said, honesty will set you free. Come on, just be honest. We know it. We already know what happened. And so he thought he was in no legal jeopardy whatsoever. And he's just a kid, right. And so he did not know, he thought he was helping himself, and he hurt himself bad.
Can I ask you what you made of all the, I don't know if you noticed all the touching of the legs and all of that?
Right. Well, one thing I noticed was that he, when he was, you mean when the detective kept tapping him on the knee and saying, come on, Brendan, we know you can do this. Just tell the truth. We already know the truth. And, that was over the line, but mostly, but another thing I noticed is Brendan Dassey looked down the whole time. He was telling them this tale, and, inexperienced liars don't make eye contact. And he was just making it up as he went along because he was trying to please them. But they kept saying, honesty will set you free. We know there's a video in your head. Just tell us what happened. And so he thought he was being judged by volume, and he thought he was in zero legal jeopardy because at the end of the interview, he says, hey, I have to go be back in school. And they say, you're not going back to school. And he hasn't gotten out since.
Right. My heart is broken for him. I think what they did to him was gross. I don't know what the other word, misconduct or whatever you would call it. But Jack's, Ripper, you got any questions you want me to forward on?
Yeah, this question that Travis has asked that I just put on there, I wouldn't mind asking him that one that's on the screen.
Can you answer the question that's on the screen, Marty? What do you think about federal court Judge Duffin granting the writ Seventh Circuit affirming and then bank reversing? People have difficulty understanding how that confession can stand.
Well, I have to admit, I was absolutely blown away when I learned that that those 9 judges or however many collectively reversed a finding that had already been made. And they rarely do that in bank thing where they all join together. But I was floored because it's very hard to win a habeas corpus petition, very hard. So when Brendan won that was a huge deal. And they're almost never reversed. But I thought it was just stunning. I mean, I disagree with it, but you know, they're the judges, but I was just floored by it, actually.
All right. Hey, let me see if I'm going to take Nozey and Mystic off real quick, and I'm going to see if he can hear me that way and see if I
Okay.
can get this to work real quick. All right, Marty, can you hear me now? You still
For some
can't hear
reason,
me?
I can't hear Jack.
Wow. All right. No. All right. Well, Mystic's going to be our interviewer then. I don't know.
I don't know
why
how
you
to
can't hear me.
interview. That's your job.
Then,
But you think
then you still can't hear me.
Can you
No,
hear him
okay.
now?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I don't know, but that's all right. Yeah, he can hear her. So yeah, I don't know what the deal
Can
is.
you hear me, Marty?
Yes.
Okay, he can hear me too.
But
Weird.
you can't hear me. Maybe we've talked way too much. Here, you know what? Let's try this. Marty, how about you log out and go back to the email and do the link, and then I'm going to take these two off real quick and see if when you join back, if that will work. So there's going to be a
He
thing.
can't hear you, so I got to repeat all of
Tell him to leave the studio down at the bottom.
He said, leave the studio down at the bottom and then re-click the link to join, and he'll get rid of us, and then you guys should be able to talk.
Okay, leave the studio.
Right.
And then read. Yeah.
There
all
you
right.
go.
All right. So now you guys leave. I'm going to wait for him to come back and see if that will work. If it doesn't, then you guys got to come back because
All right.
I need to ask him some questions.
Thanks for everything.
All
See you
right.
guys later. Bye.
Oh, all right. Bye. All right. So we're going to have Marty come back because I do want to talk to Marty about some specific things. And I know that Mystic Jinx does not want to be my moderator. All right. So yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear Jack now.
Okay. We just had to get rid of the loudmouth. That's all. No, I'm just kidding. So, in that interview, that confession that they had when you and I talked the other day, you talked about how, you know, he was making things up. But do you remember we had the discussion when you were talking to me about some of the things that he said he saw in the fire?
Right.
What do you remember that he saw? Like when he was saying what things did he?
Well, when they would say, come on. Well, they would always say, Brandon, we already know you saw something in the fire. Tell us what it was. And then he would just make something up. And I thought I watched an hour of his interrogation last night, but as I recall, he said toes or something like that. So he'll give the thing that I'm angry about is he thought he was being judged on the volume of information he was giving to the police. He didn't think he was in any legal jeopardy at all, as long as he told the truth and as long as he told what they thought was the truth. So he was just filling in details. He thought he was doing the right thing, but it's like, if you don't know, you don't know. So anyway, it was pretty outrageous to me because he was a child and very suggestible. And they would say, we already know this, so go ahead and tell us. Well, if you already know, why are you asking him, you know? So
is that a red flag if you're being interrogated and law enforcement is saying we already know what happened? Is that a red flag for you to be worried about?
Sure, because if they knew what had happened, they wouldn't be asking you. So, but most people don't know that the police can and lie during interrogation. In fact, most children don't know that. Certainly, most 16-year-olds don't know that. So, you know, the police are kind of on a pedestal. There was a big power differential there, and so he didn't. I mean, gosh, no one expects the police to lie to them. So, when they said, "We know what happened, Brendan. We know. Just confirm it," he really thought they knew. I mean, I don't know. He just kind of got in an alternate universe where they were saying, "Just tell us what's the video in your head, you know." And I mean, before they got done, he was inside his uncle's trailer and had, you know, it's really, really bad. But there would have been nothing wrong with him saying, I don't know, I had nothing to do with this. But it started out, like all the interrogations, it starts out friendly, and they get your baseline, like what you're like normally, like, hey, what'd you think of the Chiefs game last week? Blah, blah, blah. Then they figure out what you're like. Then they start getting into it. But what struck me is they said, we're your friends. If you're honest, you'll be okay. You got to just be honest. We can't help you if you're not honest. And he didn't know he was jeopardizing himself. He thought he was helping the police. And that's why when it was over, he said, oh, I got to go do my science project or something. And I said, you're not going anywhere. So it's perfectly legal for the police to lie during interrogation, but most people don't know that. And certainly most 16-year-olds don't know that. Most children don't know it. And so, because we're taught to believe the police, and they are, generally speaking, honest, but in interrogation, they can make up whoppers to get you to confess.
Right. It's okay for them to lie, but if you lie, you can be held accountable for it, and they can use it against you. And then, of course, you're a criminal defense attorney. Would you ever recommend, because Brendan had an attorney at that time, his attorney got a phone call from, these guys that were going to interview him for a Saturday interview, and his attorney allowed Brendan to go in and talk to them without him being present. Would you ever allow a client of yours to go be interrogated without you by their side?
Never. But the thing is, Lynn, what's his name? Lynn Kaczynski?
Yes.
I mean, the threshold issue in an attorney-client relationship is, does the lawyer care? Do you actually care about the person? And I don't know if Lynn Kaczynski was busy or what the deal was, but and I don't like to criticize my colleagues, but never in a million years would I have done that. I wouldn't have let him talk to anybody. So I don't know. I mean, I'm quite sure Lynn knows he made a mistake, and as you know, he talked to the press and so forth. So
right, and he wanted him to do a retake. I don't know if you remember. He's like, hold on, let me start that over.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Okay, but if you don't love your clients, if you don't care about them, that's a problem. Now, so I think he just kind of assumed, that I know this family's kind of, have a bad reputation. They run a salvage yard, and this kid must be guilty. I don't know, but what he did was textbook for what not to do. And it really, I mean, Brandon is in prison because that lawyer messed up. I mean, and I think, and his parents were naive too. So.
Right. Because his mom, Barbara, at some point did arrive at the station, because you see her for a second, but I can't remember exactly if she asked if she could come in, and they said, you don't need to come in. Nozey, do you remember how that played out? Can you?
Yeah, I mean, it's two different stories. Uyghur got on the stand and said that they offered her to come in to the room, and that she declined. But then Barb's story, to the best of my memory, was whenever she asked to go in there, they told her she didn't want to do that. It was going to be a gruesome story, and Jinxie can probably add on to that. But it was just kind of Barb made it out from what I recall is that they didn't want her in there. But then when Uyghur got on the stand, he said, oh, well, she declined to come in.
Okay. I Mystic, I might have accidentally, I can't unmute you. Okay, you did it.
Me.
Okay, so why don't you add in what happened with Barb?
I think that's how I remember it too. Barb was told that she didn't want to hear whatever it was Brendan was going to be telling them in the interrogation room. So she did not go in. And then it was, I do believe that it was said, that she didn't want to go in.
Okay. And as my friend Michelle from Australia says, it was in her best interest not to. Marty, would you ever recommend anyone talk to law enforcement without an attorney present?
The short answer is no. I mean, once you hear the Miranda warning, that they're suspicious of you. So, I wouldn't talk to the police. If I heard the Miranda warning, I wouldn't talk to the police. But lots of times police, to give the Miranda, you have to be in custody. You're not free to leave. So, and I taught law enforcement, I taught my students how to do this. You can drop by somebody's workplace and or call them and say, hey, can I drop by and visit with you? And as long as they're free to leave, they don't have to give the Miranda. So sometimes people's antenna isn't up, because if the person is free to leave, you do not have to give the Miranda. So like a policeman could call me and say, hey, Marty, could I swing by your office real quick? And he may be wanting to talk to me about the, local church men's Bible study or something. But then where were you last Thursday night? So the Miranda is a sure red flag to keep your mouth shut. But, even if they don't give the Miranda, you can get yourself in a tight spot. And I was telling you about Ron Cotton. Ron Cotton did not rape anybody, but he went in and did a interview, and he got his weekends mixed up, and he never got out for a long time until he was exonerated. So you can be completely innocent and try to cooperate, but if you fumble your information and then you get mistaken in a lineup for the real guy, you're toast.
Right. Right. All right. So they can come to your place. They don't have to read you your rights. They can ask you questions, and you could say something that, you make an honest mistake with something that you say. And even though you haven't been read your rights, they can still use that against you, right?
Yes, because if you're free to leave, they don't have to Mirandize you. So this happens all the time where, a policeman call somebody, hey, Joe, hey, could you swing by tomorrow? I need to visit with you about something. You don't know what it's about. I'm from a small town, so, you might be talking about softball or the church or some community activity. And then, and then 5 minutes into it, where were you last Thursday? So that phrase, you're free to leave at any time, that's a way to get around Miranda, because Miranda puts people's antenna up, but it doesn't as much as it should. I think it's become so common, people don't hear the words, you have the right to remain silent, but so yeah, there's lots of ways to get around Miranda. And the key is, if the person's free to go, you can interview them all day long.
So basically, if you're free to go, you're also saying that if you say anything, we're free to use whatever you say, because you didn't take your option to leave or to remain silent, even if to not talk.
Right.
But just not to remain silent.
Exactly. But anytime somebody says lawyer, I want a lawyer, it has to stop. I don't care either way. But so if you're free to go, and most people, when they're with the law, when they're with law enforcement, they don't feel free to go. But if you're free to go, Joe, swing by the police station. How you doing? How are the kids? Where were you last Thursday night? Well, they're not making you stay there. So that's just a little trick to get around Miranda. But so you could be talking to the police and not hear the Miranda warning and still say something that hurts you really bad.
This is my take from that is, no matter what, whenever a cop comes to talk to you, you get a lawyer.
Well, I hate to be cynical, but I was telling Ripper about this. I was telling Ripper about Ron Cotton and Jennifer Thompson. It was a fabulous, absolutely fabulous piece that was on 60 Minutes, and he was convicted of raping Jennifer Thompson, but he had nothing to do with it. They found out later it was Bobby Poole. And DNA, even after she was told it was Bobby Poole, she said, no, I think it was this other guy. And the two guys looked a lot alike. But Ron Cotton, the police called and said, hey, would you swing by? And he thought, sure, I got nothing to hide. And they said, where were you on the weekend of the 21st? He says, I was in Cincinnati with my cousin. Well, he got his weekends mixed up. And that's all it took, because next they had a lineup. They took him in custody, had a lineup, and Jennifer identified him as a rapist, even though it was not him. But he did look a lot like the real rapist. But she didn't even want to believe it after the DNA evidence. But fortunately, Jennifer Thompson and Ron Cotton are now close friends. They tour the country talking about wrongful convictions. But that's one of the most damaging cases where a completely innocent person just wanted to help out, talk to the cops, and got flustered and got his weekends mixed up. And it's just heartbreaking when the reporter says, so, you know, when did you get out of the interview room? When did you get out of police custody? He says, I didn't. And so he did a long piece of time, 10 years.
Marty, I know you didn't see my first hour, but the guy that
Adam?
Yeah, okay, you did see it.
I saw some of it, but I feel sorry for that kid. Man, that's heartbreaking.
Right, because I mean, the person whose fingerprint they found there, these two people looked very similar, and he did go volunteer himself to talk to law enforcement, and I mean, he had nothing to hide. He was totally innocent. But you know, for me, of course, I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice. But you know, I always say, I'll never talk to the police, especially if you're innocent. I mean, now, if you're witness to a crime or something like that, it's a different story.
Yeah,
but
certainly.
But you know, as an innocent person, if you're being accused of a crime, I mean, talk to him with an attorney. That's
right.
You know,
yeah. In Better Call Saul, Mike, the detective, he's questioned by the police, and he just says one word: lawyer, 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 and they go away. But people think, okay, it's not okay. Police interrogation is not the principal's office in high school. It's not a confession booth at the Catholic Church, and I'm a Catholic. So you don't have to make some big confessional. You don't have to say a thing. And the founding fathers said, you have the right to shut your trap. So if you invoke your right to shut your trap, you're doing something patriotic. You're doing something the founding fathers would be proud of.
Right. So you do have a Fifth Amendment right. You don't have to say anything. Even if law enforcement yells at you and says, you better talk to me and answer my questions, you don't have to. You can just say, I don't have to speak. I mean,
no, you can, just say lawyer. Yeah, you don't even have to say I decline to speak, but just say I want a lawyer, and then they have to go away. But interrogation is the most miserable ass process imaginable. You're taken into a room with no windows. You're put in a corner, and they start out as your buddy, and then it goes on, and you're hearing lies mixed with the truth. And Eddie Lowry in Kansas was a GI. He was a soldier, a smart guy, but he gave a completely false confession of a rape and I think a murder in Topeka, and he spent 10 years in the joint, and he did not do it, had nothing to do with it, but they kept asking him, just like that asked Brendan, what'd you do next? What'd you do next? Didn't you get out a knife? And at one point in the interview, they said, didn't you go upstairs? And it's like he didn't know it had an upstairs, whatever. But so I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know why, but people think, my God, they think I'm guilty. They know I'm guilty. So if I just confess, I'll get a lawyer and clear this up. Don't do that.
Right. Because some people I have watched where they say, I just thought if I told them what they wanted to hear, then I could leave and everything would be all right. And of course, there was a guy on yesterday, Jason, I think it's Jason Strong, where he confessed to a crime that he didn't commit. But, a lot of people don't understand that it happens and like, oh, I would never confess to something I didn't do. But it happens, and there's techniques, like I think it's called the Reed technique that law enforcement uses. And, they know how to do this, how to, there's certain people that are more susceptible to confessing to a crime that they haven't committed. So, I mean, for anyone watching, I mean, it's always great to get an attorney. Hey, someone's asking if you know anything about Fox Hills.
I don't.
Okay. I don't either. But time flies. We only have like 7 minutes, and then Tricia Bushnell's going to come on, but Marty, you're going to stay on like for 5 minutes with her, because I like to bring new guests with the old guests. But you're writing a book, right?
Yes, I've been working for 8 years on a book about Joan Bondurant, a woman from my hometown, Great Bend, Kansas, who was a World War II spy, and she joined the OSS which was the CIA at the time, and was stationed in San Francisco and then India. And she was, helping us beat Japan. But then she met Gandhi after the war, and she turned totally toward peace, and she became America's top Gandhi scholar. And the reason this is important is Gandhi believed that each side has their own point of view. For instance, you can't see if my hands are touching, but now from this viewpoint, you can see. But everybody has their own angle of vision. So in a criminal case, the prosecution and police, they have their angle of vision. This guy's guilty, tunnel vision sometimes. And the defense has their angle of vision. And Gandhi believed if you did nonviolent resistance or talked or had some kind of constructive conflict, that you would learn the third side, that you would get to the truth. So everybody's looking from their angle of vision. And in the Dassey case, the police, they had tunnel vision to the max, and they only looked for evidence that supported their conclusion. So Gandhi would say, you got to talk the other side. You got to be open to the fact you might be wrong about this or that, but everybody's just telling what they see instead of trying to find out the real truth.
Right. Okay. So Fox Hills, I didn't know it was. I thought because Marty is from Kansas, and he does have a Facebook page. Just go look Marty Keenan, or go on my Facebook page. He's under the Friends thing, but his book's going to be out I think December maybe.
Right.
So later this year. Go follow him on his Facebook page. He really likes to help people. I mean, he does stuff for the NAACP. He has really good morals. And I didn't know Marty until this Highland Community College thing. And one day I got a call, and he was one of the attorneys on the call. And one thing I liked about Marty is I was telling the NAACP people about this story, and I could hear this guy in this conference room going, "Oh, wow. He's like, this is a lot worse than we thought it was." And then a couple of minutes later, "Oh my gosh." He said, this was, I mean, he was just reacting to these crazy stories. But go follow him on his Facebook page. He's a really good guy who cares about people. Like when he talked about Lynn earlier, it was obvious all Lynn cared about was Lynn, in my opinion. But go follow Marty. But this Fox Hills thing they're talking about is when Brendan was interrogated at Fox Hills, but they lost the tapes. So Nozey or Mystic Jinx can probably tell us more about that. Oh my gosh. All right. So
well, they were supposed to have a law that all minors are, this was a law that was passed with the Avery bill, I believe. And, it was now a law that they had to record all minors that are being interviewed. And they interviewed him first at school, then Two Rivers Police Department. And then they took them to Fox Hills, and they continued to interview Brendan, his mom, and I think Blaine was there. And yet the tape failed. So there are no tapes of what actually happened. And then it was 2 days later, I think it was, they stayed overnight the 27th, the 28th, they went home, and then they brought him back, took him back out of school and brought him back to the sheriff's department, and then did that other interview. And all the interviews are the same. They're all just him nodding along and looking down and not knowing nothing.
Right.
All right. Hold on. I'm going to just tell my wife to go run the chickens off, because I do have chickens, and someone just said Ripper has chickens. So I'm sure there's roosters out over here somewhere. So I know my wife is watching, so I'm going to have her go do that. But so another time, Marty, probably we should come on here. We should probably research the Fox Hill stuff, and we can talk about it. So I do have someone in the backstage waiting room, so I'm going to bring them on real quick, and then Nozey and Mystic Jinx is going to leave, and then I'm going to have Marty in here for about 5 minutes. But of all the guests that I have today, this is the one I'm most nervous about. I mean, I have Erin from CBS later, which is great, but I'm not even nervous about her. But this one that's getting ready to come on, I really admire the work that she does. So
okay, if it's who I think it is, will you at least ask her Because I know there's a collective question of why she left the case. That's who it is.
No, I'm not going to do what you tell me anymore.
I didn't tell you. I just asked.
Yeah, I mean, she can hear, so if she wants to answer it, she will. But I know that she's out of Kansas City, and I don't know if that's a problem with, but yeah, sure. Sure.
I get it.
Yeah. So we'll see. So I'm going to bring in Tricia Bushnell. She is the director of the Midwest Innocence Project. One of my heroes, and here she comes, and there she is.
Hello.
And everybody can clap at home. I mean, this is wonderful stuff. So, all right. So now, Mistake, Nozey, you guys can take a screenshot. You're on with one of the greats with the Innocence, the Wrongful Conviction
on
stuff.
that one. Like, your screenshot will be me making a face with that, but I appreciate the kind words.
All right. So they are going to go. Hey, thanks for coming on. I'll see you guys on the Don Lewis stuff for sure.
I'm headed over there now.
All righty. All right. Now we have, all right, Marty. This is Tricia. Tricia, this is Marty. Keenan.
Marty.
And I know that you've seen when I would post some of the Highland Community College stuff that I was working on. Marty was the NAACP attorney that, I mean, it was just me working on it by myself. But Marty came in at some point with the NAACP, and I started giving him information, and Marty was just like, this is disgusting. This is horrible. But Marty was the first person that, has credibility, because us YouTubers, we're just rogue journalists. We don't get, our credibility is not like a lawyer or, someone at CBS. So it's really hard for us to get stuff out there. But Marty started going to the newspapers and saying, this is what happened. These are my findings. So he was a big part in this, the ACLU now has a lawsuit against them, but Marty's from Wichita. He loves to help people. So this is Marty. Marty, I know that you know who Tricia is.
Oh my gosh. I've been wanting to meet her for a long time.
I was about to say, Marty, we should have been meeting for a good while ago.
Yeah, and Cheryl Pilot and all of you have just done, you're miracle workers. Thank you.
We are just telling stories of the hard work that y'all do. We're just.
Well, I taught criminal justice at Butler Community College, and I always talked about Lamar McIntyre, one of your cases, and his defense lawyer. It was a shotgun murder, His defense lawyer did not even ask the police if his fingerprints were on these 12-gauge shells. That's like, what? But Lamar.
Well, they wouldn't have known because they didn't collect anything, right? They didn't do anything in that case. But
anyway, thank you for what you do.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will say for Lamont McIntyre, Lamont is free because dozens of women, but poor Black women who were abused by Detective Roger Golubski came forward and put themselves at risk to bring the truth to light. And I think that's, I always want to make sure that it's important. As lawyers, we get to be the folks who tell the story, and then everyone hears us tell the story, but we're not the ones who are living the experience.
Right, exactly. So. Right, I always told my students, don't skip school, because Lamont just happened to skip school that day, and I think he was playing Nintendo in his basement or something. But who would have dreamed something like this would happen to him? Right.
No, I think that's the reality of all wrongful convictions, right? None of us ever think that could be.
And sometimes, like yesterday, we had Ricky Kidd, who was one of your clients on. Ricky had one of the greatest alibis in the history. He was at the sheriff's department filing for a permit for a gun when the crime took place.
Yeah.
And then how many years was it? 20, was he 20, in?
96 is when he went in. So a little over, yeah.
So over 20 years, and he was at the sheriff's department. I mean, I don't know what better alibi you could have unless you were in jail at the time.
I mean, and what's the thing about Ricky's is it's so fascinating is that's one part of what is an actually incredible alibi. Like everywhere he went to his sister's house as well, or his sister's job, which is a financial workplace here in Kansas City where they have cameras. He had to sign in and out, all of those things. But because the trial counsel didn't get any of that at the time, you can't go back and recreate that. Right? You can't years later say, let's go pull that surveillance video and those logs. They don't exist. But he did have to sign in and out. And in fact, one of her coworkers testified they remember buzzing him in. So it's just, we could say this all day about so many clients and so many cases. There's just so many things that you get angry about. And so we're lucky to have folks like y'all who are bringing it to light.
And anger is a good word, because I get mad. I mean, I just like, I just like when I was talking to Adam earlier, like when he first came on, I just like, it's just so wrong for this stuff to happen. But Marty, do you have any questions for Tricia before we kick you out?
No, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of your work. And if you need any help in the Wichita area, I'll help you, and I'll find people to help you.
I was about to say, I know we're going to be in contact, because Wichita, there's always a lot of things going on. So I appreciate meeting you virtually. It's how we meet people now anyway, right?
Yeah. We'll keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I will vouch for Marty. I mean, he has he was a big help for me to get the story out there. I mean, he's the one that gave it credibility and went to the newspapers and was like, yeah, this happened, and you can quote me on it. I mean, so Marty, thank you for coming on, and I will talk to you pretty soon, I'm sure, because we're still actively working on that stuff up there.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Marty. All right.
Sorry, I'm in dire need of a haircut, so you're just going to see me doing this for like ever the whole time.
So do you have the one side short, like?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like the same style you had back when you were doing the work with Ryan, when him and I can't remember the girl's name. They had the show on MTV.
Eva Nagao.
Right. So you had the same hairstyle, and I remember seeing that there's a case with Michael Politte, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Politte.
Yeah. All right. So Michael, and this is another story that just makes you mad, because like with Dassey, Brendan was just a kid, but Michael was 14 years old. And can you tell us kind of, there was a fire. Well, I don't even know if there was a fire, but it wasn't like the house was burning down. Fire. So can you kind of give us just a background of what happened in that case when he was 14, how the police got involved?
Yeah, well, so Michael, when he was 14 years old, his parents were going through a pretty contested divorce, hostile divorce. And he was supposed to be going to his father's house for the weekend, but there was sort of a bunch of reasons why he didn't end up going there on that Friday night. So he's at home, his mom's at work. He and his friend Josh go to the local sort of gas station and play games, and they go hang out in the graveyard, and they go, do what 14-year-olds do and set fire to some things on the railroad tracks. And then they come home. His mother, Rita, comes home, brings him a Subway sandwich. They split it. They go to sleep. When they went in the middle of the night, Michael wakes up and he smells smoke, and he looks over at Josh and he says, "Are you smoking a cigarette?" And Josh says no, and they get up. It's sort of really the wee hours of the morning, and they wake up. The trailer's got a bunch of smoke in it, and they go to wake up their mom, and his mom is on fire on the floor. So her body is what's been set on fire and is burning. And so he and Josh went to try to put it out. They got the hose. It didn't reach in all the way. They got the neighbors. They did everything that they could. But essentially, Michael was a suspect immediately because law enforcement thought that his reactions were not appropriate. And then he failed a voice stress test. So once he failed the voice stress test, which I think, even if we were going to say they're accurate or reliable, which they're not, but even if we were going to go by that, certainly a 14-year-old who just saw his mother burning on the ground would have stress, right? So they did all of that. And then essentially what they did is they said it must have been a gasoline fire. They said there was gasoline on his shoes, and we know that both of those are not true, that you cannot take that statement, and that what the dog was alerting to on his shoes and what the chromatograph showed was that it was a chemical used in making sneakers and not in gasoline. So that is Michael. And so he and his family have been fighting since then, right? We're going on getting close to 20 years of his whole family fighting. And, how do you grieve your mother when the very second that you find this horrible instance, you're picked up?
Right. I could tell you that if they would have given me a voice stress test, like 5 minutes before you came on, I would have felt it with flying colors. I kid you not. I would have felt it. So, and I did look I like researched it a little bit, and I saw a study that was done that said like it's like 50% accurate. Like, and it's like flipping a coin.
Exactly. And that's like any polygraph. Anytime we think that we know when people are lying, you might as well flip a coin, right? The only way we know people are lying is if we can prove it.
Right. By evidence. And I mean, yeah. All right. So we know the sneakers. I mean, what you said, that's just not possible. But something else that stands out in this case, the fingernail clippings from his mom, they were collected, right?
Well, I mean, we think, right? It's all really, I mean, this is yet another case. So he was convicted in a pretty rural part of Missouri. The Attorney General and the State Police Department came in to help facilitate the investigation. But like we see for a lot of places that aren't used to these sort of major crimes, and hopefully not a lot of places are used to these major crimes, right?
Right.
The investigation was kind of all over the place. And so one of the things that they did is when his mother, Rita, when they were doing the autopsy, they collected fingernail clippings. So they thought, but then they were unable to find them. And so actually later they exhumed her body to take new additional clippings, which I think is just another terrible sad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they should have had him. I know that when I was reading about it, that he had mentioned that they didn't have the fingernail clippings anymore. And his clothing, did they lose his clothing also? Is that still?
It's kind of unknown. I will tell you, so when I first started on Mike's case, which, I started at MIP in 2013, the sheriff's department and the law enforcement investigating agencies actually called us and said, y'all had asked about the evidence earlier. We had a big mess of an evidence locker. Now you can come and look at it. So we went out and looked at it, and it was one of those instances where everything was bagged together. Because they basically went through and looked at the old facility and then piled it all up, put it all in. There were dead rats in there. Things had been eaten. It's possible potentially that his clothing is in there. There is some clothing in there, but the chain of custody on something like that is not clear enough to be able to say what exactly is what.
And things could be contaminated because they just put everything in there together. So that's not good. So how, like with this COVID-19 stuff going on,
sure.
How is Michael doing? Like your clients that you have, because I see your Twitter post and I see your frustration. I mean, I don't know how you do it. I know you have limited time, limited resources, and I'm going to ask you about that also. But your clients that are locked up right now, like how are they doing with this virus? And I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's stressful and it's hard on everyone, right? Mike is someone that I do get to talk to quite a bit. He gives me a call, and so he's doing okay so far. He actually works in maintenance, so he travels throughout the facility fixing things and doing different things, so he has a pretty good idea of what's going on. But I think everyone's scared, right? And we're here in Missouri, actually. So in our 5 states, most of our states did not issue a shelter-in-place order, right? Iowa, Nebraska, and Arkansas. Missouri and Kansas did, but on a limited basis. We're opening back up. And so if you think that that's what we're doing for the general public, certainly we're doing even less for people who are incarcerated, right? So if you're talking about my Twitter, you're talking about the fact that we at MIP have been calling on our governors and on the judiciary to take steps to reduce density. It's a really interesting thing when you represent innocent people, and you guys know this, I'm not speaking to the choir, you really get an idea of what are the real big flaws of the criminal justice system, right? And you see them and they're highlighted and you're like, it's so exacerbated when someone's innocent. But we also know that we over-incarcerate people. That is a problem, right? And so this is one of those moments where it's just like so bare, so clear. And unless we let people out, the density means that people are going to die. And we see that looking at Rikers, right, which has a higher infection rate than anywhere else in the world. So, we're working on that. We're trying to do that. Our clients are speaking with us. It's hard. We have 2 clients who were convicted in the 1970s. So if you think about how old they are, there's a lot of concern. Also, we can't knock on doors or investigate for those cases from the 70s. So are the witnesses going to survive? And it's difficult and it's stressful. I think every person reacts differently, just like all of us are reacting differently, right? But it's certainly something that we try to keep in really good touch with folks and make sure they're doing okay.
Right. So you have these cases. Like how many how many people do you have like in your group, the Midwest Innocence Project? Like, how many bodies do you have that help? Like, how many people do you, and here's why I ask, because I have this group for the Don Lewis case, this Tiger thing, and we have almost 2,000 people, and we limit the kind of people that come in. We want serious research people, but there is not enough time in the day for us with 2,000 people to go through all of this stuff and try to find the facts and the evidence. I mean, and that's like 2,000 people. There's probably a couple hundred of them that are, 16 hours a day. They are digging and they're trying to get all this stuff. But how many people do you have that work with you? And then I want to, because I know you can't take every case, because I've seen your tweets where you're like, it's heart-wrenching that we have so many people that need our help, but we just can't do it. So like, how many people do you have that?
Yeah. So, I'm actually pretty proud of some of these stats. So when I started in 2013, I was the only paid employee in the Midwest Innocence Project back in 2013. Now we have 9 people on staff, and we're going to have a 10th person on staff starting May 1st, which means that will bring us to 3 paid lawyers on staff. But we also have partners with the KU's Project for Innocence, which brings us another 3 lawyers and their law students in their school. We also partner with the Iowa State Public Defender's Wrongful Conviction Division. So we have another lawyer that we work through with them. And so we're really lucky that we're able to really do more than we could just on our own. We also have a really lengthy process that we go through to assist people. One of those processes is the screening process, looking at documents and everything. And so with that, we actually have big law firms that come on from all across the country. We have about another 120 people who help us do that. So it's different, right, every year, but it's certainly never enough, because as you all know, you're talking about 2,000 people for one case, right? And
right.
So.
All right. So Travis is from Texas. He's an attorney down there, but he wants to know, what can supporters do to help you all? Like, what, they say, what can we do to help? Because people want to help. What's the best thing that they can do?
I mean, it's going to vary for everybody of what they're able to give. And I think Sister Helen Prejean always says it best, which is whatever you can do that you're good at, do it. If all you can do is bake a pie, then bake a pie and bring it to the meeting. But, the number one thing that folks need is money, right? Resources is the number one problem, just to keep doors open, lights on, and helping folks. But I think what we don't talk about maybe enough, probably everyone here talks about it, but out in the rest of the world, is knowing your prosecutor and knowing your attorney general. These are the folks who decide justice every day. And if they aren't fighting for something, if they are not fighting to someone's release, someone can come home that day, right? We talked about Ricky Kidd being home yesterday. Nobody stood up for him on the prosecutor's side, the attorney general or the prosecutor. In Missouri, the attorney general has been fighting all wrongful convictions cases for the last 40 years. We've never seen them actually agree to someone's release, even in the face of overwhelming innocence. So knowing how those elections matter, speaking to people about how those elections matter, and talking to folks about that, I think, is a huge thing. Learning about wrongful convictions and becoming an educated juror. Please serve on a jury. I will never get to serve on a jury, so please go do that and be great at it. Think about who you would want to be the person that's representing your jury of your peers. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. Be educated, keep talking, bring the issue up in the forefront, which is something I know that everyone on here is so good at. But those are really the best ways to support.
Right. Yeah. Anytime you can serve on a jury, I mean, because you really need people that have an open mind and can't be swayed by, I mean, I just call it corruption on the highest level. Now, you might not be able to say that, but I say it because there is a lot of corruption that is involved in these wrongful convictions, where they know that someone is innocent, but they won't do the right thing. Like Adam's case, the guy I had on the first hour, they knew he was innocent, but they just won't own up to it. And I know that there's, money comes into play and pride and all that stuff. But, these people, they took these jobs because they're supposed to fight for justice and work for the people, but they're not working for the people. Anyway, I won't get started on that because it makes me.
And I think we're really proud of also being willing to say the names, right? So we actually, when I started a couple of years ago, we thought we were going to be really deep in forensics. And we are very deep in forensics. We have a forensic audit review program in our office where we look specifically at microscopic hair comparison cases. We work with statisticians, we work with all kinds of different experts, and it's something where we really want to say, how do we make science reliable, right? Forensic science reliable. So that's what we thought we were going to focus on. But it happens to be that because of where we're at and because of what we're good at, we're actually sort of a misconduct organization. We sniff out misconduct, we find it, and we display it, right? So all of our last 8 clients who come home have mainly come home on misconduct claims, Brady claims. John Brown out of Arkansas, we won on Brady, NAPU, and Giglio, and Youngblood, which is destruction of evidence. Like, I mean, so we are not unafraid to say who that is. And that's why, for example, with Lamont McIntyre, I will always say it was Detective Roger Golubsky who was the individual who did that. Because people deserve to know.
Right. And these people, they do, I mean, they're paid with tax dollars. They work for the people. They need to be held accountable. All right. So I know, I mean, this weekend's about Brendan Dassey, Stephen Avery. I know you're not on that case at all, but I know that you were involved with it. I know when Kathleen Zellner took the case on that you had done whatever it was with her. I know that you live in Kansas City. I know that you were up there in that area at one time. You worked up there, right? And
yeah. So I used to, I mean, I can probably play some little things out here to rest. So
okay.
I used to be at the Wisconsin Innocence Project. That's where I worked directly before moving to the Midwest Innocence Project. I am licensed in Wisconsin. When Kathleen Zellner was looking for a local attorney who was licensed there, who had experience with that knowledge, she reached out to me. We certainly, as I said, are interested in forensics and what we can do with testing. So we worked and we participated in the case in order to see what we were able to get if we could get additional testing. Once that testing was completed, you know, Mr. Avery has a full legal team, very confident and capable legal team. And so he's, you know, Kathleen was always the main attorney. She is his attorney. And so she didn't need me anymore. And that's sort of where we're at.
Okay. I mean, people ask, I you know, I know that you fight for people tooth and nail. I mean, I see you tweeting at all hours.
I'm a very angry tweeter, so you guys can all.
I mean, so I just thought, well, I know she's in Kansas City, and I lived up there for 20 years, and it's a great place to live. And I do have to tell you that Bill Odell says hi, because he's working on the Highland Community College thing. And what's really funny is Bill is a really good sports attorney guy. Like he's like one of the top in the country when it comes to that stuff. But when him and I started talking about you, I mean, it was like he was a fanboy. I mean, I say that with the, I mean, he was just like, oh, I mean, you could just tell as soon as he started talking about you that he was just like so proud to have worked in the same building as you. I mean, and I get it. I mean, you're a superstar. The people that are watching, they know. But Bill says hi.
No, I appreciate all those kind words. I think it's a very funny thing for us to hear because, you know, like anybody else, we're all just trying to do the best that we can with what we can. And like everybody else, we're all like, well, we don't know anything. We're just doing the one thing we know how to do, right? So I appreciate those kind words, but I promise you I am a flawed human being like everyone else.
Well, I did tell someone this morning that you lay your head down on a pillow at night just like everybody else does. You get nervous like everybody else that you have. I mean, you're just another person out there in the world. You just have some really special abilities to do something special. I do want to ask, is there anything about Michael's case that you want to talk about? Because I want to talk about the Lamar Johnson case also. And Erin should be getting on here pretty soon, but I know that she wants to ask you about that. Also, she brought it up to me.
Okay.
I know, right?
I will happily talk with both of you about Lamar Johnson. I mean, I think the things to know about Michael and Michael Politte and his family is they're still waiting. So we filed a petition for him, which is a state habeas petition in Missouri. It's kind of like post-conviction. It just means it's not a statutory, but a common law writ. And so we filed that for him in March. The state's response is due coming up on May 8th. And we're just going to continue that process. What that process looks like in the middle of COVID-19, I don't know, right? When do you get an evidentiary hearing? What does that mean? I don't know. But I think if the more that folks can know about it, there was an MTV show about it called Unlocking the Truth with Ryan Ferguson, who hosted it, was an exoneree. You can watch that. You can learn more, but you can also follow. He has a Facebook page that his sister works on, and just support the family.
And that show, it's on YouTube. You can search it on YouTube and watch the first episode. And I think it's maybe 40 minutes long. But you can just search his name on YouTube and that comes up. And it's a really disturbing story because, you know, it's a 14-year-old kid and they use this voice analysis stress test thing to use as like evidence against him. And it's really outrageous and people should be upset about it. And
they also threatened charges against Josh, who's the other individual who was there. I mean, think about that. When your alibi who's with you, who is also another kid, that they're using that. And if you read our petition, which you can find on our website, we talk explicitly about the things that they put in the emails about them. And I think it's impossible for all of us to imagine being in that position as an adult. As a child is even more unconscionable.
Right, because as a child, you just don't know. You know, I mean, even adults get in trouble with legal stuff too, and you know they should know better, maybe. But as a 14-year-old kid, it's really sad. All right, so Lamar Johnson. I'll let you tell the background on Lamar Johnson because I think people are going to be angry when they hear this stuff.
Yeah, well, I hope so because it's outrageous, quite frankly. So Lamar Johnson was convicted in St. Louis City. There's 2 jurisdictions in St. Louis City and County. And essentially what the crime was, there were 2 individuals sitting on a porch. 2 men ran up in the middle of the night wearing ski masks over their face, both black men. They shot onto the porch and they killed one of the individuals sitting there, and they left the other one, who was a white guy, which is important because they use that as a statement against Lamar, alive. The white guy, his name is Greg Elking. He goes to the police station. They try to do a bunch of photo arrays. He can't make any identification, and he tells them the truth. I couldn't tell you who did it. It was dark, and we did a recreation. You can't see anything. They're wearing ski masks. It's impossible, right? Greg goes and he gets into the elevator, and in the elevator, talking with one of the police detectives, the detective says, well, we know Lamar Johnson. He's wanted for these other things. He's a really bad guy. We just really need you to help us out. Can you go and can you pick him? And Greg Elking does go and pick him in exchange for a number of undisclosed payments from the victim's restitution fund, which I think is something else that's important to talk about, which is the way that our criminal justice system has worked. When we talk about helping victims and we pay them from the restitution fund, one of the requirements is that you assist law enforcement in the investigation, which I think is just a horrific thing. Something happened to you, but you have to assist somebody or we're not going to give you any money. So they make those payments, those get undisclosed. A jailhouse informant comes forward and says he also hears something from Lamar Johnson, right? And they bring that in forward they revealed some of his past history, but not all of it. And they certainly didn't reveal he had significant racial animus in the letters that he wrote to the prosecutor, calling Lamar all kinds of horrific racial slurs. So fast forward, we're investigating the case. The 2 real perpetrators confessed. They signed affidavits. We know who it is. Lamar had repeatedly tried on his own pro se to file these to get the court to hear about these real perpetrators, that Greg Elking had told a pastor that he had lied in exchange for payments and come forward, and he signed an affidavit, and Lamar keeps filing and he never even gets a hearing. So we're working on it, and we go and we present this evidence to the new prosecutor, Kim Gardner, who was elected on a platform of reform and who started a conviction integrity unit. So we presented the case to our conviction integrity unit. They reviewed it. They spoke with Greg Elking. They spoke with other witnesses. They took Greg Elking's deposition, but also they went into the file, their own file. And they found that while we had been asking 10 times in open records requests for records of payment made to Greg Elking, and we were told that no such records existed, not only were the records there of the payment, totaling thousands of dollars, paying for things like back utilities bills, storage, his girlfriend's hospital bills, not only were those payments in there, our records requests were in there too. So they knew, and they did not disclose that. So Kim Gardner did her review. She found, Greg spoke with Greg Elking, know who the real perpetrators are. And so she filed a motion for a new trial saying that Mr. that Lamar deserves a new trial, that as a minister of justice, this is incorrect, and that he's actually innocent. We joined that motion for new trial. The judge at the time then appointed the attorney general to, we're not really sure what to represent the state, but also Kim Gardner still represented the state. The attorney general opposed. The judge said she did not believe she had the authority or power to grant the motion for new trial. We went to the Court of Appeals. The attorney general then because this is why it's so crazy if you guys know anything about the legal process, but we appealed, but also Kim Gardner appealed. So you have both parties appealing for the same thing. So who's the appellant and who's the appellee? Nobody knew. The court didn't know. It was a whole mess. And the attorney general then said, well, we're the only people that can represent the state on appeal. So they dismissed Kim Gardner's appeal. So now only our appeal is standing, and they put Kim Gardner in as an intervener. So that case, the Court of Appeals said they thought the Missouri Supreme Court needed to hear it. We went up to the Missouri Supreme Court. We had oral argument on the 14th, and now we wait for a decision.
Okay, it is 3:30 my time here, and I did just bring in Erin here. I was going to introduce her, but I just thought, no, I can't make her wait any longer. But everybody knows who this is, and you see the comments. Everyone's like, "Wow, hi, Erin," and all that. Erin, thank you so much for coming on here. I just gotta say that, you know, I've talked to Erin on social media for like 4 years, and she's just a person, just like a neighbor out there. She's just as normal as can be. Of course, she's one of my idols and heroes and all that, but she's just a normal person like Tricia is and stuff. But thanks for being here. Everybody loves you. Anyway.
But Jack, you know, I just want to say I'm so glad you're having Trish talk about the Lamar Johnson case. That case is the most absurd case, and it says everything that's wrong with the appellate system, but it also says what's right with people like Tricia, because she is, I said this, Tricia, to Jack earlier, you're like this force of nature and you don't give up. But this case is so troubling. It should so upset everybody who hears about this.
Well, and nobody says he's not innocent. That's what kills me, except for in the oral argument. I will caveat that with an oral argument for the first time, the attorney general said, well, he was convicted by a jury, so he must be guilty, which, I mean, obviously a jury that heard flawed, false evidence. I mean, there's even more beyond what I said in the thing about other issues. But, you know, I appreciate it, Erin. And I was so sad we were supposed to be on a panel before about a couple weeks ago. So I feel like we're making up for it.
We'll do it. I'm sure we will do it there because they all want to meet you. Jack, we were supposed to be on a panel at the St. Louis University. And these kids they're in college and they're already looking toward Innocence Projects, and they care about these cases and they really wanted to meet Tricia. So we were going to be on a panel. Hopefully that will happen maybe this fall. If any, if classes come back, who knows?
Right. Who else was supposed to be on that panel? Was there other people on there? Was that the same? Was that like the April 6th thing? Or all right, so John Legend was supposed to be on that panel. Was that the one, or is that a different one?
So those are two different things. So
okay.
April 6th was John Legend in Pennsylvania, and then St. Louis was right there. I was going to be flying back and forth between those two things. But
okay, yeah. So they were two different things. So because you did tweet about you were so excited to be on a panel with John Legend, and I just thought,
yeah,
I mean, and he's right, but I bet you he was just as excited to be on a panel with you. I
want to know how many people meet him and ask about Chrissy Teigen. That's really what I want to know. How many people?
He's used to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, so on this Lamar Johnson thing, because Erin did bring it up to me, but Erin, do you have anything you want to ask Tricia about the Lamar Johnson case? Because I know it's outrageous. But
I just want to know where it does stand. So has the Supreme Court, the last time I heard, they thought the Supreme Court was going to take it on its own. Has the Supreme Court of Missouri taken it?
They did. So what happened was the Court of Appeals transferred it up. They took their own initiative to transfer it to the Supreme Court. And then we had oral argument on April 14th. What was interesting about that is it was the very first remote oral argument for Missouri. So in the Supreme Court, they gave us the option of either going on the briefs, right, not having argument at all, or moving the date. And we filed a motion saying, can we actually do it remotely? And we believe that it needs to be streamed for the public consumption. And they granted it. So we had that. The audio was unfortunately not great, so it was really difficult. But they did hear argument on the 14th, and now we're waiting for a decision.
And I hope they move quickly. He's been in so long. It sometimes bothers me again that the courts take their time when they must realize that every day makes a difference for this man, every single day, especially with COVID-19 in the prisons.
I know. Yeah, we talked about that a bit, but I know it's another person that we know is innocent that's sitting there. And I think if we want to bring it home, you know, the very first person, Mr. Sutton, who passed away in Pennsylvania, that died in the Department of Corrections because of COVID-19, was someone who was innocent. And we know it's gonna affect all of us.
Do you know about the Crosley Green case? Because I'm going to bring this up with Erin, but I don't know if you know anything about it, Tricia.
I don't. I will let Erin. I will happily cede the reins over to Erin, who was just great to see you on here.
So
it's great seeing you too, Trish. I'm sure I will be seeing you for real soon. Hopefully.
I hope so.
Right,
I hope.
So much.
Tricia, thank you so much for coming on. I love your work. I admire what you do. You're a real hero.
Thank you all. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
We'll see ya.
I agree with you about Trish. No question.
I know she is a great person. All right. So Erin, in case people don't know, you're with CBS, or you're a correspondent with CBS. You do a show called CBS 48 Hours Mystery, Saturday nights at 9:00 Central Time. You've won 9 Emmys. I mean, like, winning one is pretty good, but like it's 9, right? Do you keep track?
Yeah, well, it's 10 if you include one that I was included for CBS Sunday Morning. But remember, I've been there a long time, so it's less impressive when you realize that I've been at CBS for 34 years.
So that's one every 3 years. I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. If that's, but before you went there, you were in, is it Chicago? Did you do the news in Chicago?
I was in Chicago. I worked for 3 years in Chicago. Before that, Baltimore.
Yeah.
And then in Ohio, where I'm from.
Right. You went to Ohio State. Did you go to Ohio State?
I did, undergraduate in law school.
Yep. I had a guy on last night that was from Ohio, or the night before. Yeah. I had the Friday night it would have been 2:30 to 5:30 a.m. slot the other night. So I think it was last night, but it was late. But he was from Ohio. But I looked to try to find some old footage from you from back then, and I could not find any. But I wanted to play some, but I couldn't find any. But I did find some other stuff, and I don't know if you saw the thumbnail picture that I had for this thing. But you've won 9 Emmys or 10, and then there was another one that I didn't understand. I didn't research it, but there was a Journalist Hottie Award. What's that?
Oh, that's just, there is, it's crime. I think it's called Crime Uncensored. It's a radio show, and it's done by Burl Bear. And he just named me the, whatever it is, the crime reporter hottie or whatever it was.
Right.
But remember, Jack, this was radio. So,
oh gosh.
So I think it's different, but no, Burl and I go way back because he writes a lot of true crime books, and he's interested, the way so many people are in America, in these true crime stories. But I honestly do think, I think that's why you had Trish. I think people are interested because they're fascinated by the evidence, but they're also fascinated and interested in the idea that the system can work properly, and then it cannot work properly. And those are the cases that worry us, because if it can happen to someone like Crosley Green or Lamar Johnson or Ryan Ferguson, it could happen to anybody. And that's a very frightening thought. We didn't think this prior to DNA. We thought most of the time the jurors get it right, and they don't always get it right.
Right. And one thing that I'm going to put something up here real quick. And I don't know what year this picture was here, but there's you, and that's Crosley Green, right?
Yeah,
On the
that's
screen there?
Crosley. And that would have been not this time I interviewed him, but in 2015.
Okay.
This was the third time I've interviewed him. I interviewed him in 1999. You know, you should realize, just for people to understand what the case was. So it's a case of a young man who was found shot, not dead, but shot in a citrus grove. And his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, had called it in. And she said that they had been kidnapped and hijacked by a black man. The problem is there wasn't any real evidence of a assailant, but the cops never looked at her as a suspect, and they believed her. And she pulled Crosley Green out of a photo lineup that day, and they told her that the person was in there. And so they clearly had an idea that it was Crosley Green, even though there's absolutely no physical evidence at all to tie him to it. When I first interviewed him in 1999, I thought she was probably telling the truth. This was before the two first responders came forward. But I thought she had the wrong guy, because there was no way, according to the evidence, that he could have pulled this off. Number one, he doesn't drive a standard vehicle. The vehicle itself, the truck, was very difficult to drive. There's no fingerprints, nothing to connect him. And there were a lot of people who saw him at a party at the same time and remember him because he broke up a fight. But then when the first responders came forward, then I realized that it was possible there was no assailant at all. And the story took a very different turn, because then you were talking about a possible racial hoax. And that made the story more important to me, because it was a bigger story. And also because if there had been another assailant, Crosley could have, now with DNA, could have proven his innocence, somebody else's DNA. But if in fact there was no assailant and the whole thing was made up, he can't even prove his innocence. How do you prove, nobody existed, so it can't be me.
Right.
And so that made the story, that's why I've just never given up on it. It's just been too important of a story for me to let go on. Right,
because there were footprints at the crime scene, but not enough footprints for another person to be there.
Well, no, there were tons of footprints. It was you realize there were two crime scenes. There were no footprints, let's be honest, at the crime scene where he was found. No footprints. But there were some footprints. She claimed they had been at a park earlier, and I think they were at the park. But I don't think they ran into an assailant there. There were tons of footprints there. And the cops claimed that they found shoe prints and that a dog followed the scent, not the shoe prints, but the scent over a sidewalk, I should point out, and went to a home where Crosley Green's sister was living. But it turns out that the real footprints, according to the original crime scene video, didn't even go to the truck. And those shoe prints were not any kind of shoes that Crosley owned. He owned one pair of Reeboks. The other thing that I just about, we didn't even put this in our hour, we've had it in past reports. So originally she said that he was wearing work boots, brown work boots. But there was a problem for the cops because Crosley Green didn't own any brown work boots. So they got her to change it. You can actually see it as you see her statements where she starts to change and say, well, maybe they were high tops and they were high tops tennis shoes and they were dirty, so they look brown. And then she changed it to, well, they sounded like work boots. You actually can see as much as is available to us where she would change the story to fit with what evidence might be out there.
That's really disturbing. I mean, that she says, I mean, anytime a witness changes testimony, it's a problem. But then when they have to make it fit the story that law enforcement is trying to come up with, that's a big problem. And so you've been following this case for over 20 years.
Yeah, since 1999 is when I started on it. And the one thing I've learned from doing the Ryan Ferguson case and Marty Tankliff and Crosley Green, I'm very lucky to work at 48 because these cases take time. And every time you air an hour, more evidence comes out, like in the Ryan Ferguson case. And in the Ryan Ferguson case, that's when Kathleen Zellmer first heard about the case. And thank God, Ryan Ferguson would not be out today without Kathleen Zellmer. So you have to stick on these stories. You have to stay. You have to try to develop new evidence. And as I just showed you in the Crosley Green, the theory behind the case changed once we knew that those two first responders existed and had told the DA from the beginning that they felt the girl had done it. So you have to stay with them, but very few. You won't get that local reporting. They usually don't stay with cases. And it's rare to see network follow a case year after year after year. And 48 Hours has been kind enough to let me do these cases because they make a difference.
Right. And it really is amazing that there is a network that will follow a case year after year after year, because it costs a lot of money to follow a case like that.
Definitely.
I mean, it's expensive to do it. So you really got to applaud CBS for allowing you to do that. Now, with talking about law enforcement, you know, and their theories and stuff, I know you probably watched the Brendan Dassey interrogation at some point.
Yeah, the Brendan Dassey interrogation. Well, I don't know how I feel about Stephen Avery because I have not thrown myself into that case as much as like you have, Jack. But the Brendan Dassey case is pretty classic, like the Melissa Kaluzinski confession. I hope you see the little quotes.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yes, the air quotes. Because these are people who have certain kind of disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
In the Melissa Kaluzinski case, she really had a verbal disability, one that I had difficulty even as a reporter. She did not understand all my questions. I didn't understand all her answers. And so imagine a person like that who's getting pressured by cops using the Reed technique, good guy, bad guy, you know, trying to lessen, oh, just tell us and then you can go home. They always say that. And you know, you and I think a lot of people listening would say, well, this wouldn't happen to me. I'd never confess. But there's a certain group, whether they're young, whether they have some kind of disabilities, whether they have, I know it happened to a guy by the name of Tom Sawyer, where he had been an alcoholic and they said, oh, you must have had a blackout. You must have done it. It's your blood. He believed them and he confessed. And thank God he had a good judge who listened to the entire interrogation and said, wait a minute, they didn't have your blood. They didn't have any evidence, and let him go. But otherwise, this Tom Sawyer, because he believed that he had blackouts, maybe he did it. He lived next door to the murder victim. Those are the kinds of people who can be coerced, and they look very convincing. Brendan Dassey's interview, I never did think looked very convincing, but when there's a confession, and Jack, you know this, it's really hard. It is so hard to overturn a conviction like that. When there's a confession, Melissa Kaluzinski, there's been so much new evidence, and she's still sitting in prison because she quote unquote confessed.
Right. And you have adults with, you know, who are smart that confess. But when you're talking about like Tricia's, one of the cases she's working on with Michael, you know, he was 14 years old. Brendan was 16, but, you know, he did have some challenges. But, you know, this is a technique they use on adults, on everyday people who are smart enough to know, but it still works on them. So, yeah, when you have a child, I mean, Brendan Dassey was a child. It's pretty scary that, you know, that could happen.
I feel guilty. I say this all the time. I feel guilty about saying this, but nobody should ever talk to the police, ever. You know, you think I'm innocent, and so I need to talk to them. You do not. You should not, ever. And I know that was held against, you know, John and Patsy Ramsey during the John Benet Ramsey case. People said, oh, they must be hiding something. No, they were educated, smart people who knew that that the police were convinced that they had killed their daughter and they were going to use whatever they said against them. And so they did not. They did later, but not initially. And if you saw those interviews that, particularly Patsy, she's very credible. She was very credible and convincing. But the police had it in their mind. They had that confirmation bias, so that no matter what either John or Patsy did or said, it was only going to add up to their guilt. It was not going to be viewed in an impartial light.
Right. And I agree. I mean, the attorney I had on at 2:30, I told him that I normally tell people, and I always have to say, I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice, but never talk to the cops, especially if you're innocent, because there's just nothing good that will come out of it. I mean, if you're innocent, there's nothing. I mean, if you witnessed a crime or something, maybe that's different. But when you're being interrogated and you are 100% innocent, I don't think there's too much that can help you. Like with one of Tricia's cases, with Ricky Kidd case, he had a great alibi. He was filing for a permit for a gun at the sheriff's office. That was his alibi, but he still went to prison for like 23 years. Although he was, in a law enforcement place, and he talked to them, he told them everything, but he still got sent to prison. And if he wouldn't have talked to him, maybe it'd be different. I don't know, but he did talk to them, and it didn't help him at all. So, all right. So I want to know, you stick with these cases for so long, and someone's asking about. No, I think it went past. The Dream Killer. Did you do? Was Dream Killer your show?
Oh, absolutely. We started on. No one else had to tell us because we actually covered the trial. We started on the story before Ryan was convicted, and the reason why we stayed on the Ryan Ferguson case was because I never thought he would get convicted. It was clear from the video we had seen that the only accuser had been fed the story by the cops. And so my attitude was, there's no way he's ever going to get convicted. When he did get convicted, we decided we were going to stick with that story. And every time we did, there was new evidence that came out. And then 10 years after he was convicted, he finally walked out, in large part because of Kathleen Zellner. But had we not done the story, had we not covered the trial, that's actually what worries me the most. They were able to use some of our video for the courts and their appeals. And we don't always cover trials now because it's so expensive. And that worries me because we did always cover trials. And that really helped if an appellate court needed to see a particular witness or, be able to go back in time.
Right. And it is really important for people to understand that if it's not for people like you, and even the small people, like in my first hour, I had DK Sell, who helped, he was a big part of getting this guy out of prison. But had he not got involved and just done his internet research, the guy might still be in prison. But if you don't put pressure on, these people that receive these taxpayer dollars, they do work for the people. They need to be held accountable. But if it's not for people that put pressure on these, some of this stuff would just go on forever. And I lived in Kansas City when Ryan, when he went through all that. And when I first saw it, I was like, man, something just doesn't make sense to, the whole story and everything. But I do remember you all covering it, and I didn't think he would get convicted. I figured he'd go through, it would be a clear case of, mistaken identity or whatever. Because when you have, in a case, you don't have any evidence except for, oh yeah, I saw this person do it, and that's your only evidence. That's a problem for me because, there's no DNA evidence. There's just no real hardcore evidence. And then when you have law enforcement paying off people in some way or doing favors for them, it really skews the system to where it's not fair.
But in Ryan Ferguson's case, what was so troubling about that is there was tons of physical evidence. The problem is it didn't match either Charles Erickson or Ryan Ferguson. So what that case broke my heart for a lot of reasons. I really liked the prosecutor in that case. And I thought they had more evidence, that they were keeping evidence from us. And so when time went on and I realized that they didn't, and I was so disappointed with him. And of course, then he cut me off. He used to talk to me and then he would not talk to me anymore. But what kept me always worried about the case, Charles Erickson would not talk to us for a long time, nor would his family. And at one point I said to Charles' attorney, why is he taking a deal? I mean, it's clear he doesn't know anything about this case. And the attorney kept saying to me, I know something you don't. And then I got worried that maybe, oh my gosh, maybe when Erickson got home that night or something, there was blood and his mother found it or something. And that was something I'd never hear. And one of the things that made me the angriest was right before he did get out and I finally interviewed Charles' mom. I finally got to ask her and I said, all these years, your attorney said to me that you knew something that we didn't. And there was a reason why you let him. And she said, no, there was nothing. And I was trying not to, they just want him to get a deal first. They, for some reason, thought their son could commit a murder like this. And they wanted to get the best deal. They didn't think that maybe he'd be innocent. And they could have avoided 10 years of prison, and Charles Erickson's still in prison.
Right.
Right. It's a sad thing, but he's got a lot of issues. He's got a lot of problems.
Right. Now, someone asked what your relationship is with Kathleen Zellner. I mean, we've seen your shows. We've seen Kathleen on your shows. I mean, you guys talk, right? You guys. Yeah,
we do, but only about cases. Kathleen is, work. And I'm not working on her Stephen Avery case. And that's the case that's one that really matters to her. So I do talk to her on the Melissa Kaluzinski. And so, yes, sometimes I talk to her a lot more than other times. But you can't help but admire her. She's probably one of the most important private attorneys out there today. The amount of money that she's gotten for wrongfully convicted, the people that she has helped and cleared their names. She's like Trish in this sense that they are 150% into it. And, Kathleen's one of my heroes because she works so hard.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she is an absolute amazing woman. I mean, you can just read. And she grew up just like 20 miles from where I live. She grew up in a small town in Oklahoma when she was little. So, but I admire her for the work that she's done with so many people. But also you, I mean, you're up there too. You're a legend, just like she is. I mean, you are. I mean, what made you get into this kind of field? Like, did you just like people need help, or what was it that?
No, I wish it was that thoughtful. I was practicing law in Columbus, Ohio, in a law firm. I was the only female at a time when Columbus was just getting used to having female lawyers. I wanted to be a litigator. And I thought one way to possibly gain clients would be to go on television. And so I hosted a local show in Columbus. I didn't have a degree in journalism. And then I realized that a lot of what I wanted to accomplish, I could do as a journalist with a legal background. And then, of course, I lucked out when 48 Hours became trials all the time. Right now, I mean, I can't believe my luck that I ended up with the most perfect job for someone like me. I get to talk and interview lawyers all the time. I get to deal with legal issues, whether it's on CBS Sunday Morning or 48 Hours. CBS this morning. If my case that I want to cover isn't big enough for 48, then I can go to CBS This Morning. I mean, I am blessed, honestly, to work at a place that says, hey, just do the work, make sure that you're on the right side of this, and we'll air it.
Right.
And so it takes a lot of work, but I've got always really good people working with me. who want to do the same thing. It's not just me, obviously. And so it's been a perfect career for me.
Right. There's a lot of support people that help, that make things like this happen. I mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've told people that I have people that are just giving me all this information for like the Don Lewis case, the Tiger King thing. I'm just the mouthpiece. Like, they're doing all of the hard work. I'm just going through it and relaying the information. Now, you also have a podcast. I only have like 1 minute left, and then everyone's going to go over to Andrew Whitehead's channel. What the information on your podcast, where can people go to listen to your podcast?
Well, wherever you get podcasts, Apple, you name it. It's called My Life of Crime, Erin Moriarty and My Life of Crime. And it's in most cases a little lighter look at crime, if there can be. I did do a serious case of a young man in prison in Missouri. He didn't kill anyone. He robbed some convenience stores with a fake gun, an empty BB gun, and got a 40-year sentence. So I thought that was worth doing a story on. But otherwise, I spent the night in Lizzie Borden's house. I went to talk to female killers at Bedford Hills. All the pretty amazing female killers. And they're such nice women. That's what, I have a hard time, like, okay, this is a woman who killed a lot of people, but she's so nice.
Right.
So that's what My Life of Crime is. And I've got a bunch coming up. I think they're going to be released early May, 6 more episodes. And because you can do different things on a podcast than you can, with a little lighter touch than you can on 48 Hours or for Sunday Morning.
Right. I'm just going to say, this person right here, comment, Erin, they mean Erin, but why are you hiding your cape? I think true superhero. I had her brother on the first hour, and he spent 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and he had to sign an Alford plea. And I mean, it's a horrible thing, but I'm going to just send you, I'll message you the information for him. I think it's going to be one of those stories that you're going to look at and it's just going to make you angry, because now he owes $108,000 for legal fees, but a judge apologized to him and said justice did not serve you. You were done wrong. I mean, there's all these things that happened, but that was
plea I hate.
Right. But that was his sister that just posted on there. So I'm going to send you his story, because it's so sad. And thank you so much for coming on here. You're one of my idols. Muhammad Ali was like my idol growing up. You're my idol as an adult. I love what you do. Everybody's saying thank you. So thank you for coming on here. I know your time is precious. So stay safe out there.
All
right. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Andrew is going to have his. I'm sorry I went 2 minutes over. So go over there. That was wonderful. I think Erin could have talked to us all day long about wrongful conviction. So everybody, make sure you go check out 80morethings.com and take care, everybody.